dream too much. I tell myself that I can't stop. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. That I can't stop. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. Clearly now. Clearly now. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. I smoke too much. I drink too much. I tell myself that I can't stop. We could see clearly now. 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 Clearly now. Clearly now. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. That I can't stop. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now. Can't stop. We could see clearly now. We could see clearly now.
Alrighty, we are here in Champion Select for the Reverie Esports Open number 57, I believe.
Yeah, there's been a lot of them now.
Yeah. This week we have Octavian back from his little break last week, and this is last week's winner and the open of the winner of the Open buy-in. It's not really an Open buy-in, it's buy-in.
Mhm.
Um, and they're facing off against something I've never seen before. A free agent team is in the semifinals, which are on the blue side here. All right.
That's interesting. I mean, NCSU Prime certainly does have a little bit of a pedigree, I'd say. Oh man, I got thrown totally entirely off track. I don't know. I cast a lot of different leagues, a lot of different amateur events, and all this sort of thing. And so you see a lot of different names this way. But this is one of my favorite ones I've seen so far, particularly because of my background in nerdy sci-fi um, literature. R. Giscard. That's great. This guy's got the best name. I'm hoping you're getting the reference of that.
Actually, I don't get that reference.
No?
There's some.
Oh,
You get a deal.
I
Okay, what reference am I missing here? What's it from?
It's from a series written by Isaac Asimov, the guy who wrote
Oh,
the I,
I've
Robot
only
books.
read like one of his books, and I don't recognize that name. I need to get
Oh,
down to read more of them, but
that's unfortunate.
a lot of
I give
books
a
to
lot of
read.
respect to this guy.
I've heard he's great. Speaking of things that are great, bans have happened relatively quickly here, which some are
Mhm.
unusual.
Yeah, the Lux ban is certainly strange, as is Rengar. I mean, everything that we're seeing NCSU ban right now is
Rek'Sai
odd.
is fairly not too unusual if there's a Rek'Sai main, but which I
Until
do now that I remember Pluck and Penguin had excellent games on Rek'Sai last weekend.
and
So
Talia's been working her way into the meta slowly. I think she's a pretty standard pick at this point for a lot of mid laners, which is really interesting. She hasn't had too many changes since her release. A little bit of a quality of life slash buff with the way that her main combo interacts. Seismic Shove plus Unraveled Earth. And the way it used to lock you out of any other spell cast. In fact, casting Seismic Shove used to just lock you out of other spell casts, including her Unraveled Earth. But since it doesn't do that anymore, she is a little bit more simple to maneuver in terms of her combos. And that alone has been enough for Talia to sort of rise to a second stringer position in the meta, I'd say.
that makes sense. I have seen her occasionally in LCS. And speaking of picks that we're kind of skipping over, Sivir is the first pick for our free agent team, and NCSU locking in Shen and Karma, two picks they'd used quite a bit last weekend.
Yeah, Shen already has given them a bit of map pressure, and the Karma is nice to have as a bit of a flex pick. If they want to give it to Shadow Visions, it's always an option. Could go to Hani as well as a support, so not really revealing too much of their hand, and Shen's kind of really hard counter in lane. So I like the first round of picks here from both sides. As Sivir is also a bit of a power pick and something that you want to steal away from enemy teams if you know that they're about hard engage and all that sort of thing.
Which actually NCSU was. They used Sivir, I'd say 90% of the games I saw last weekend. Pretty much
Hmm.
every game they could, they locked in Sivir. And they used
Well, then
Sivir Karma quite efficiently.
we definitely see the reason why that's being taken away from them by Team 2, Free Agent Team 2, one of the best names I've come across in a while. Going to be given 2017 here as the bottom lane is locked in. It looks like if that Lucian hover is coming through from both sides. Though, of course, there is still always the option to flex Karma to mid and pick a different support for them.
That is definitely an option. I do believe Shadow did play a mid Karma last weekend also. They are a very flexible team from what I could see. They did tend to favor the Sivir Karma strategy for bottom lane.
I like going with the Karma and Hecarim on the same team. Very powerful combo there. Sivir has been taken away, so that's a little bit of the juice from that combo stolen away from them. Sivir, Karma, Hecarim getting all those on the same team works out to some ridiculous engage potential, but even missing one of the Holy Trinity, it's still pretty darn strong.
Absolutely. We still need solo laners, or no, not sorry. We have Gnar. We need a jungler and a solo laner for mid lane, and that
And
is what we
there's
get. Graves and Ziggs. I don't see a lot of Ziggs despite the satchel buff.
Yeah, I've seen a few Ziggs recently, but to be fair, those that I have seen have been from a player called Zud over in Imperial, and he's one of the few Ziggs mains left in the amateur scene. So this will be one of the only Ziggs I've seen outside of that particular player's play. Usually, the way that I see it played is it's very much about just sort of holding out in the lane and then having the ability to use his semi-global ulti to control all the lanes pretty much at once. And just if somebody's going for a split push, like Argus Guard likely will on Shen here, he can toss down the Mega Inferno Barm to sort of put the nix to that plan. That's an Aurelion Soul mid lane.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it is.
Yeah, a very interesting mid lane matchup it looks like we're going to have here.
I don't think I've ever seen Aurelion Sol in a single Reverie tournament. This will be interesting to see how he plays it.
Yeah, Aurelion Sol is certainly not familiar to the current meta. I He's got his own ability to sort of roam across the map. With Hakarim, with Shen, and with an Aurelion Soul mid, and Karma even to potentially speed buff people up, the amount of mobility, cross map and otherwise, that NCSU Prime is going to have here is pretty darn huge. I'm really curious to see how this match plays out.
Definitely looking forward to it. We do see that our free agent team quite isn't an LCS order, so that's going to be a little inconvenient, but nothing too serious. Our 3-minute delay has started, so we will be taking this opportunity to jump to a small commercial break while we wait for us to get into the game. We'll be back shortly, guys.
And now it's just like, man, you got to have that time where you just like disconnect from the scene, just the race, like, and it's a race that I've created in my head, you know. But you have to step away from it.
And here we are. We are in the game. Let me take the opportunity to rearrange some of these little character slots. There we go. And they're off.
Off and running with that speed buff. My favorite addition into our most recent of seasons.
Absolutely.
Season 6.
I do like the approach Riot takes. They do fine little revamps, I should say.
Do we have an invade? It looks like we've got a 5-man stack here coming out from the side of free agent team number 2. And they're doing their best to avoid any sort of vision, and it looks like they will be successful, at least up until they face check towards this Karma, which is the only destination left to them.
Karma is easily going to be able to get away thanks to the Montrage Q.
And Soul Flare are going to be more than enough to keep them at bay, and all that information gained will be kind of for naught.
Well, valiant attempt for them to try and even the odds, because they are going to be probably at a slight disadvantage in terms of teamwork experience, because they are a free agent team. Oh, I have a little... I need to fix one little thing. Because NCSU's title is 4 digits, they're sticking a little out of the box. Let me go ahead and move that over.
Oh, those darn acronyms. Never staying where you put them. 2017 will be starting on the bottom side of the map, mirrored by Pluck and Penguin, who will be starting with his blue buff as we swap towards the mid lane here, which I am super excited to watch. There's the Celestial expansion from Shadow Visions, as it looks like Hani is going for an aggressive play here onto the ground. Not the ground, pardon me, the
Krugs.
Krug camp.
Trying to be a little annoying. Didn't seem to succeed, but worth the effort.
Some damage onto Zeeth there.
Yeah.
And getting the scouting that 2017 had started on that side of the map is rather useful as well.
Absolutely.
Give some time over to...
definitely can't hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Alright, things are starting a little slow. There's some trading in the bot lane. We're seeing...
Ooh. Empowered Soulflare not quite connecting. Still a good trade for Hani, as Big Dick takes a few too many auto attacks and really can't respond too effectively with that huge minion wave piled up there. And the fact that, yep, they're just about to hit level 2 before Zeeth and Big are able to reach their own breakpoint.
Absolutely. Big Dick here having to play back a little safely. Not too interested in taking more damage.
And this is kind of what you would anticipate out of a lane where there's a melee ranged discrepancy between the supports, and then of course it's Lucian versus Sivir. So really the Karma Lucian have a relatively easy time controlling this lane, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. And I almost said Lucio, but that's obvious. Ooh.
Little... Dropping the exhaust. We have the gank here from 2017 who's coming in for the first of the game. There's the Boomerang Blade flashed away from Hani. 2017 gets exhausted. He pulls his way back with a quick draw. Doesn't look like they're going to be finishing off any kills here on either side, as Puree can't quite reach the low health Graves. There's a little bit of a split focus there. Zeeth was definitely laser focused onto Hani, stacking up that stun onto him, but 2017 was trying to kill off Puree at the same time.
It's a little bit of miscommunication, possibly. Because if they'd been a little more focused, they possibly could have killed Hani.
Yeah, I think Hani could have been an easy kill for them to get, but I think they were being rather ambitious there, and they were trying to get both Puree and Hani.
Absolutely.
Hani.
Not
entirely sure which way.
I had it right last week, but I can't remember all of a sudden. Ooh. See, Dirty Cambo. I almost said Dirty Combo. Forced a flash there to escape. Well, Andy going aggressive here.
Hani's coming in. He's got the snare on to Big Dick. Puree doing some good damage there, but Zeeth is playing bodyguard. And it looks like it'll be about an even trade between these two. Dirty Combo doesn't quite go down to the Spitfire from the Dragon auto attack.
Forced to barrier. It does save his life, though. Definitely not having the easiest time versus Shadow here.
And that's both summoners down for Dirty Cambo. And
oh.
Both summoners up still for Shadow Visions. Well, one of them down as he flashes to try and get the kill.
Really wanted it. Let's see, what have we missed in the top lane? Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, Vivid the Kid is shoving in a little bit against Giscard here, but Giscard in true Shen form is weathering the storm. He's holding just about even on CS. Hani now going aggressive as he knows he has a jungler coming in to follow up. Lucky Penguin going to be charging forward. Big Dick, though, he flashes away. He gets the spell shield down. One more auto attack from Puree. Will find the first blood for his team and for himself, most importantly. 2017 going to be dashing backwards towards Shadow's Visions. Just
Very
about 5 minutes on the board, we get the first blood going down.
nice aggressive plays by Hanny to help secure that kill. Actually forcing Big Dick's flash. I didn't even notice that.
And it was good awareness from Pluck and Penguin to be on the bottom side of the map around then when both Zeeth and Big Dick were still missing their summoners. Oh, Shadow Vision could be in some trouble here. Dirty Cambo only needed one more bouncing bomb, but he's not going to be chasing for it.
Definitely not interested in getting baited while he has no summoners himself.
Yeah, and Shadow Visions, I suppose, still did have his heal up, but I think he could have taken the heal from him at the very least. I don't know if he would have gotten that kill.
I definitely...
One more well-aimed bouncing bomb.
I can agree to that. I don't see how he couldn't have gotten the heal, but he is playing cautiously for the time being, it seems.
Yeah, they didn't have vision on Plucking Penguin, I suppose. And there could have been a Hecarim waiting in the wings.
Well,
We returned to a bit of quiet on the rift. Ooh. Zeeth has been playing a little bit more aggressively than I anticipated. I thought the Sivir Braum would just kind of try and survive the lane as best they can. But we have seen some leaps forward onto the minion wave from Zeeth to go for some trades to initiate some ganks. That's mainly been it whenever we've seen 2017 on the bottom side. Zeeth has been the one starting off the festivities.
absolutely. They are pushing this wave up pretty hard, but I don't think there should be too many issues farming that wave under turret.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I really don't think they have any more windows of opportunity to fight unless they're in a numerical outnumbered situation with the jungler or something like that. Or maybe even Dirty Cambo roam down to the bottom side. I mean, Ziggs is not renowned for his roams, but he can provide some additional damage with the ulti. Just because Lucian has a BF sword and Sivir has a Cole. Like, that's such a huge difference.
Absolutely. Well, Vision's missing his stun there.
Yeah. Shadow Vision's maybe in some trouble. We do have Pluck and Penguin come to the mid lane. Dirty Combo has no summoners left, and so will be easy pickings for Pluck and Penguin. 2017 will fall as well, as with the benefit of Argus Card's ult, Shadow Visions was not as easy prey as his opposing number was.
And also there was the heal to save the day, leaving Shadow pretty healthy.
As Big Dick and Zeeth are once again in a 2v2, Hani and Puree realizing that action happening across the rest of the map means that there's nothing to be thrown at them if they go aggressive. And so aggressive they go, chunking Big Dick down.
Definitely utilizing the difference in items to take care of that advantage.
Mm-hmm. And it's already a sort of differential in the matchup as well, with Lucian just outperforming Sivir in these quick 2v2 skirmishes. And Karma being no slouch herself.
Absolutely. Zeeth blocking a little damage there.
Shadow Visions lands a very nice stun. Dirty Cambo's going to turn it back around some damage of his own, I should say.
He's definitely not afraid to return the favor in damage.
Mm-hmm. I'm interested to see the Aurelion Soul build path because Aurelion Soul is such a strange and unusual creature in the mid lane. Looks like he's pathing towards that Rod of Ages, which makes a lot of sense. Aurelion Soul has to be kind of uncomfortably close to the enemy team to do consistent damage with his passive. So building a semi-tanky item while still getting some damage out of the bargain is a very logical pickup.
Absolutely. I can imagine we're going to predict the Roa, and the Rylai is very likely. It just makes sense on a character such as himself.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Here
little
comes
gank
Pluck
here.
into the mid lane though, and this may be Dirty Cambo going down. He does have some summoners available once again. He's going to be burning one of them, but not the other. Flash gets him to safety.
Very nice pressure from Pluck and Penguin.
Yeah, he's been ganking up a storm in this game while still managing actually to outfarm his opposition. Pluck and Penguin has shown up in the jungle today. Tonight, I should say. It is nearing on the 9 o'clock mark where I am. We have many more teams than we usually do.
Absolutely. It's definitely a nice little bundle we have here.
Oh, Hani probably going to get the snare here in Big Dick. The spell shield doesn't actually stop the secondary cast of Karma's snare, as Big Dick found out there.
It's too
One of
bad.
those
He
strange
always-
little niche interactions.
Absolutely. Sending applies to Nocturne Spell Shield, I believe.
Yeah, the spell shields in general won't stop the secondary proc of the spell because I think it just doesn't count as a spell cast in and of itself.
Absolutely.
Shadow Visions doesn't quite get the stun. Celestial Expansion doesn't quite get the damage he needs either. He's still laying on the pressure in the lane though. Cambo's gonna be heading back home.
Ooh, good taunt.
Yeah, Argus card does get tossed against the wall, though, and his good taunt may all have been in vain. He's rather tanky himself, though. He doesn't want to go down. The Spirit's Refuge keeps him alive from that auto attack from Vivid the Kid. He gets his passive again. The boulder comes through, though, and crushes any dreams he had of getting out of there alive.
He was
Still,
alive
though,
for so
incredibly
long.
well played. Yeah. Giscard just used Shen's kit to the absolute limit there. Ooh, Big Dick, speaking of limits, getting pretty close to the lower limit of his hit points.
And speaking of, we have a little gank coming here.
Here comes Shadow Visions. He's going to be dropping the ulti. Voice of Light almost spelling doom for Big Dick, but here comes Dirty Cambo matching the roam from Shadow Visions to the bottom side. However, we do have Stand United onto the Dragon. Here's a culling just about tickling Zeeth's backside, but not getting the kill. He will be able to get out of there, but the same cannot be said of his mid lane friend. And Ziggs, I should say. Plural. Multiple Ziggs. False.
Well, I won for nothing. And it looks like a tower, actually, one tower and possibly dragon. There you go. Okay, it's going to be a dragon.
And that's the map mobility that I was talking about. Shadow Visions was able to arrive earlier than Ziggs was to the fight, simply because of, what's the name of his ability? One where he takes flight and can go over walls. 2017 flashing over wall himself, though.
He really wanted Henny there.
Probably going to be giving up on this dragon, I'm assuming, after his flash is already burned, unless he wants to sacrifice his life for it. So that would be what going into the pit would be for sure.
Absolutely. He could have maybe made an effort with his ult, possibly, but he didn't want to risk getting caught.
But yeah, both Giscard and Shadow Visions could arrive much more quickly than their opposing numbers. Actually, Vivid the Kid wasn't even in that fight.
He was actually heading back to top lane when that fight occurred.
So that's some synergy and cross-map pressure being displayed by a team that really does have more synergy and cross-map pressure, simply because they've been together as a team much longer.
Absolutely. We do see Giscard still playing it safe. He is a little behind in CS because of that gank, but working towards that Sunfire Cape will start to be very, very durable.
You can afford to be a little bit behind, because his main duty is simply just to be something of a tank and to provide utility with his ult and the taunt. He doesn't really have to crush his opponent to do that.
That's not why you pick Shen in a...
Yeah. But Damage Shen is so much fun.
Absolutely. No, we do see Vivid going for, not too surprising, a Frozen Mallet. So he's going to be extremely irritating.
Zeeth is going aggressively down here. He knows he's got a mid laner to back him up. Dirty Cambo has run to the bomb side once again on the hunt. Is going to speed them forward, but somehow Glacial Fissure actually doesn't connect into Hani. He still will go down for it, though, as Dirty Cambo gets himself a kill for his stroll to the bottom side of the map.
Clear some wards.
Not really much to be done with it, though, is the downside here. 2017 in the mid lane, maybe looking for a kill into Shadow Visions. He's going to dash his way over the wall with quick draw. Get some damage back onto himself, though, as he goes under turret, perhaps a little bit too long. Shadow Visions is looking to burst down this Grazer. There's the Voice of Light, and Plug-in Penguin comes in for the finale. Shadow Visions is going to casually avoid a gigantic Mega Inferno Bomb. And that's a double kill for our resident dragon, as Vivid the Kid teleports in only to hop away.
He's just slowly going to let the stars melt his opponents. While a giant cyborg horse also hits them to death.
I think they were riding high off their kill in the bottom lane. They wanted to try and accomplish something so they can get some sort of objective game accomplished. You know, they got the kill on the bottom side, and that was good. They killed the Karma, but there was really nothing for them to accomplish with that. The lane was too far pushed in their direction for them to go for a push on the bottom lane outer turret. And Dragon, of course, wasn't up, and they had made a play on the bottom side of the map, so Rift Herald really isn't an option. So their last real option was to try and gank Shadow Visions, but he played far enough back, he recognized that, and they simply overextended for it.
So 2017 actually stepped on a ward, so they knew he was there when he went over that wall. So that Pluck and Penguin had plenty of time to walk down and say, "Hi, guys, I'm here. Leave my dragon alone."
I'm sure that is exactly the shot calling that went through the team's mics. You're like a genie with a crystal ball effect.
Absolutely. It's an 8-ball, actually.
Oh, man. When we go into these games, you just shake it and say which team will win, and then it says outcome does not look, what is it? Outcome does not look rosy or something like that?
I can't remember. It's been so long since I've actually...
Said, wow, Hani, taking some damage here, taking some more damage, taking all the damage. Dirty Cambo brings him down with a short fuse enhanced auto attack.
Henny definitely not quite respecting the damage output. That could be
Speaking of damage output, though,
Yeah.
Puree gets a good combo down on Zeth.
And Seath definitely eating a little damage there.
Yeah, Puree's completed his first core item, so he's starting to hurt. It's a big power spike. Puree, though, going to be tossed back against the wall. He is going to flash out of there. Heal burned. Actually, heal's still up, so flash out, get a little bit of health back. They're dying without burning the heal, Puree. No, he steps across a minefield and he gives up the ghost. Dirty Cambo will be chased down, but the barrier comes into effect. Shadow Visions thought he had the kill. Can he catch up again? He can. He gets that movement speed from going in a straight line. Meanwhile, Big Dick getting dove on here by Pluckin' Penguin. Makes him feel perhaps a little bit
Smaller?
less well endowed. I don't know if I'm allowed to make Big Dick jokes on stream. I don't know if I'm allowed to say Big Dick this many times, but it's the player's name. What am I supposed to do?
I don't know. Actually, I
Call
don't
him
know.
Large Richard?
I guess. Just call him Big, I guess.
Yeah, I'll call him Richard, or I'll call him Big.
His name is now Richard.
It's slang for Dick.
Yes.
That's his name. But we have a game that's looking like it's taken pretty well control of here by NCSU Prime.
So we've seen that the free agent team has managed to pick up a few kills here and there, but they don't have the level of coordination to compete with NCSU.
Or the tools, really, as Pluckin' Penguin has been all over the map. Argus Guard has two forms of global mobility, and Shadow Vision can very swiftly move from one lane to another.
Absolutely, and speaking of Shadow Vision, so there is that Rylai's I was talking about before, so he is going to be able to sit on top of someone for a very long time while he melts their face off.
And a fully stacked Dark Seal, I mean, that's not something to be sneezed at either. I'm curious whether he'll turn that into the full-on... dang it, I see the item so infrequently, I'm forgetting the name.
Magi's?
Magi's. Yeah, it's Magi's Soul Stealer. You know something interesting?
What's something interesting?
Well, there's a lot of them. But one of them pertaining to the game we're casting. Pertaining specifically to Shadow Vision's Aurelion Soul. The tail portion of Aurelion Soul is actually not targetable nor hittable by skill shots or anything. It doesn't exist as far as landing abilities is concerned. 2017 is in some trouble here. 200 hit points remaining, and with a Voice of Light across the wall, Shadow Visions will take what few he had left.
Poor
It's a nice pickup
2017.
for-
It's only 2016, buddy. It's not quite 2017 yet.
Yeah, perishing before he really even has a chance to begin. But it works as a similar mechanic to, like, the cape sort of animation you leave behind when you have Dead Man's Plate.
Ah, okay.
You know? It follows you around like that. So you can't actually hit Aurelion Soul's tail. You have to kind of hit him in the torso or the head.
I did not know that. That's good to know. Oh, unfortunately,
Cambo can be
Dirty
stuck up.
could be in trouble here. He's getting...
Nice maneuvering from Shadow Visions. He's beautifully positioning on this Aurelion Soul.
Pure's
might
in
be
trouble, but...
He's got the benefit of a stand united. Now Argus Guard is going to come in and turn this fight right around. Dick has to flash out of there, pardon me, Richard, as 2017 is going to get chunked down by an explosive bit of star matter.
Argus Guard to save the day.
I just love this guy's name. I'm sorry, I know you haven't read the books. You should read the books. You should read everything that Isaac Asimov wrote that isn't a mathematical textbook, because he also wrote those. Vivid the Kid going down to below a few hundred hit points, going down to 0 hit points as Shadow Visions continues to show off his proficiency on this edge case of a champion. Aurelion Soul 706, not something I thought I'd see tonight. I'm happy to have seen it. That was really close for Puree.
Puree definitely not liking the level his health is at currently.
Better than 0, though.
Yep. You're not dead until you hit 0.
It ain't over till the fat lady sings. This Pluckin' Penguin finds a dragon. It's an air drake. Actually, really rather nice for a team with a Hecarim. And a team with an Aurelion Soul. Wow, that air drake is going to be really valuable for both Shadow Visions and Pluckin' Penguin.
Absolutely.
We've already seen them make use of their ability to roam the map very quickly. That's simply going to enhance that.
That's going to be a very, very fast horse.
And a lot of this game is really up to Shadow Visions and Pluckin' Penguin snowballing out of control. You know, the path that we've seen, the reason why they are 4 times the kills of their opponents is, I'd say, a lot to do with the 7-0 mid laner and the 5-0 jungler.
Absolutely.
Pretty powerful combo.
Definitely taking advantage of their skill set to catch their opponent unawares. Oh, Henny could be getting possibly. No, he's gonna get away.
I think he'll be all right. Karma is a bit of a slippery one to catch up to. And Zeeth didn't really seem too interested in a fight. Shadow Visions will be donated a blue buff, and I imagine somewhere in the next minute or two we'll see some action attempted by one side or the other. Oh no, now Hani might be in some trouble. 2017 is going to quick draw forwards. He drops the snare onto 2017 though, and fucking Penguin roaming in from the river is going to be veiling himself a kill, a double kill onto Richard. Vivid the Kid hopping over the wall will drop in onto Hani, but find himself surprised by a few more house guests than he anticipated. Dirty Cambo flashes over a wall to avoid death, but not for very long as Puree relentlessly pursues his way after him and finishes off what he started. Is Baron on the menu?
Very possibly, while Shadow Visions goes to finish off that bottom turret.
Big purple danger noodle. Easily taken down here as both Argus Card and Pluckin' Penguin are just about able to tank it. And it's getting melted here. There it is, the smite secure from Pluckin' Penguin. And even in the meantime, they have cross-map pressure with Shadow Visions shoving up the bottom lane. It was a team fight. They won 4v5. Zeeth gets stunned in a semi-attempt to chase down the mid laner.
Absolutely. Shadow almost getting that turret, but not quite. It probably has 10-15 health.
It will regen very slowly. Inhibitor turrets and Nexus turrets have that property, but
I can't imagine
very
it'll
slowly,
regen to
it's probably not
full.
quick enough. Yeah. Bottom lane is now something of a sitting duck, and they've got Baron buffs across the whole board. There's the spell shield to avoid the stun. Shadow Vision's kind of expecting that, though. Just looks for some consistent damage onto Big Dick here. One more star finds its mark, and Shadow Vision splashes out of there to avoid going down himself. A double kill now for the Aurelian Soul, as Zeeth, left alone among the corpses of his fallen friends, joins them swiftly. Hani somehow got a solo kill into Ziggs during all that, too. What?
I missed that somehow.
Well, the support is even soloing out their solo laners. This is looking like something of a drastic failure for Free Agent Team 2, who must be thinking about the next game now, because I don't really know that there's much more they can do in this one.
I don't believe there is a next game for semifinals. It's only for
No, we're only in the semifinals. I don't know why I thought we were in the finals.
It's
So it
because
is
normally
only-
this is the time when we cast the finals.
That's true. It's 9:20 p.m. That's why I thought we were in the finals. My body clock was all wrong.
Oh, 2017 doesn't want the
man.
game to end, but
I
He
think
is
this
gonna-
is only making it end faster. Zeeth gonna be bursted down here. There's the Hecarim ulti, sending Big Dick running to his death. Dirty Cambo will be bursted swiftly as well.
and that is going to be the
Snakes in their
game.
pocket and 3 inhibitors down. I think the game is a pretty easy cinch from here on out.
Absolutely. We see the turrets are going down. That is very unfortunate. Valiant attempt by Free Agent Team number 2, but a little outmatched.
I am very glad that we got to see an Aurelian Soul.
It's always nice to see.
Especially one that performed 9-0-12 when I had a fully stacked Dark Seal. That was entertaining to watch for sure.
Absolutely. I did actually watch when they first introduced Aurelian, so I really liked his little cinematic intro. I thought that was pretty well done.
That's true. I don't know what that speaks to his gameplay, but that is true. They are good at cinematic intros.
I think Blizzard has a market on that, though, to be fair.
That's not really an argument I anticipated having tonight. You know, I'd have to go over the finer points of it. I'll draw up some papers and get back to you on that one.
I look forward to it.
More appropriately formulated.
Okay, let's take a quick look at the bracket to see how the other semifinal match is going. It started about the same time, a little sooner.
Yeah, started just a few minutes before our match here between NCSU Prime, and it was Supernova and Satini. Supernova having a history in the amateur scene of being a high-level, high-tier competitor. They perform all across various different amateur leagues, whereas Satini is actually a name I've never come across myself. So props to Satini for making it to the semifinals, but I would be slightly surprised if they were able to dethrone Supernova.
Well, speaking of, the game has actually not ended yet. It's still going. And unfortunately, I don't have any of them on my friends list, so it will be I'm not sure how long it'll be before...
I have no one on my friends list. I'm friendless and alone. Nobody wants to add me because all I want to do is shout at them about League of Legends.
Okay, let's see. Well, I guess while we wait, we'll take a small, tiny commercial break, and we'll get back to you guys shortly. And we'll be back.
It's never too late to admit when you're on. Turn on your lead, see a news on. The time to decide has come and gone. Just give me a chance, we can carry on. I've made my choice, these drums of your voice, they run through my head as I remember the day. Stay in this moment. I feel paralyzed. Now I know it's over. I see you passing by, hand in hand, with your perfect light. My body, a ghost town, feels like someone cut out my tongue. I didn't know a heart could die this young. Oh, now when I look in your eyes.
And we're off. Supernova versus North Carolina State University. I don't know why I get that mixed up sometimes. I want to say North State Carolina University, but that makes no sense at all.
It's a little backwards. Still works though. NCSU.
And
NCSU Prime.
NCSU Prime. Got it. Okay, that's easy enough.
And it is the Supernova that I mentioned I would be surprised not to see in the finals here, and NCSU Prime, who are our contenders who made it all the way to the end from last week's Open, if I'm informed correctly.
Yes, they are the champions of both the buy-in last week and the Saturday tournament. But even so, they are still the number 2 seed here, actually. Supernova being the number 1 seed, surprisingly.
Yeah, Supernova, they have, as I said, quite a pedigree in the amateur scene. They're a team to be reckoned with, that's for darn sure. And we already have a few bands coming through here. Hecarim against Pluck and Penguin, who put up a very solid performance in our last broadcasted match tonight on that champ. And Shen against Giscard, so some rather targeted bands coming out of the side of Supernova.
I'm wondering if they're going to ban the Rek'Sai because... No, they're going to ban Aurelion Sol, so they were watching last game, or they had somebody watching last game at least, it would seem.
Mm-hmm.
So
Makes a lot of sense. Real-time active scouting on your opposing number. Really not much better than you can get than that. Gangplank against Cavalry is a good ban. Actually, a good bit of focus on the top lane against Cavalry here with Aurelia and Gangplank both taken out of the mix. Cavalry is a bit of a hard carry, solo top kind of style of player.
It's always fun to watch those kinds of players because when they do well, it's always entertaining. Yeah, but what is our first pick of the day going to be? What are their options? What do they want to do?
Sivir is still on the table. You could go for that if you want something a little bit safe as a first pick, though it does kind of regale your bottom lane to not being particularly competitive in the 2v2. Rek'Sai is on the table, and that's a good, very well-rounded first pick jungle. And I suppose Vladimir's fallen a little bit out of favor recently because of a series of small nerfs to his numbers, but he's still very hard to deal with for particular mid laners, and I've seen Hopeful perform wonderfully on this champion before, so.
Well, that is definitely going to be always... I love Vladimir, so it's always fun to see him in matches.
Oh, man. I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
I also like Aatrox, so we can still be friends there.
I guess. I don't know. Vladimir is one of my least favorite champs in the game.
To be fair, I have not played a whole lot of the new Vladimir.
New Vladimir, old Vladimir. There isn't too much of a difference. The main difference being in his... one of the main differences, one of the most impactful things, I think, is the healing that he gets back off of his ulti. It gives him just that much more staying power during a team fight, especially a well-placed Vlad ulti. It was already super important, but it becomes even more important than it was before. Karma Rek'Sai, though, taken away two very highly contested top-tier meta picks right now.
Absolutely.
Both for the jungle and maybe the mid or support.
So, Pluck and Penguin definitely gets one of his other good picks, and we're going to see Henny once again on that Karma. You can see Combs on possibly on Gragas. If it's a Vladimir, we're very likely going to see Gragas jungle. We don't see Gragas solo lane a whole lot in the top lane anymore.
Not too often. And that is Philly going with the Janna, and I would actually really like the Elise pickup. Some early game pressure here for Supernova would be great. Combs, I don't recall seeing him the last time I saw Supernova play. He may be a sub. He may have been that I was watching a sub the last time I saw Supernova, so I don't know his playstyle all that well. The Gragas is, of course, still a solid pick, though. Yeah, just good brawling team fighting champs here. They've got a lot of disengage, too. That's one thing I'm noticing about just these last two picks.
They are possibly going to be very, very heavy on magic damage, though, so we'll need to be very careful in that regard.
There's the Talia. Was banned out the last time we saw Shadow Visions in the mid lane, and this time he's going to be grabbing it, and with some amount of haste as well, just instantly locking it in.
Hovering on the Nocturne, but that is very likely not going to be...
Oh man, I want to see the solo lane Nocturne. I want to see it. There are myths, whisperings, and legends of the mid pure AD Nocturne, but it looks like it may be
Varus locked in, so it could be a mid lane Varus.
And it could be bottom lane. There's really no way to tell until we see this next lock in. Varus against an Ashe and Karma wouldn't be too terrible. I mean, I don't know how that lane will work out, but it looks like it's going to be the mid lane Varus, especially this Caitlyn's locked in. I like the Caitlyn Janna lane versus Karma and Ashe. There's a lot of ability to contest that because they've got range, they've got some good damage, and they've got the ability to skirmish 2v2 pretty well. I'd say Karma's a little bit on a slightly higher tier in that regard than Janna is.
I definitely need to see what our top lane pick for Giskard is going to be, because Shen is banned out. I don't think I've seen him play anything but Shen. So I'm looking forward to see what he picks here.
Something tanky with good engage, maybe cross map pressure, or maybe going the other direction entirely and picking up the Rumble. All right, so that is going to be a pure AP top lane as it's Rumble versus Vladimir. Cavalry is going to be the one given the Vampire, as Hopeful is actually going to be picking up a Varus in the mid lane. And yeah, both compositions locked in, both of them with some exciting twists and turns here. I'm very curious to see how the mid lane goes down. Shadow Vision's proved himself more than competent in the last match, but Hopeful I've seen perform brilliantly as well. I think this is going to be a really, really fun best of three that we have in our hands.
I absolutely agree here. I like both of these team comps. My only concern is the top lane. At least because I haven't played the new Vladimir all that much, I don't know how well he matches up with Rumble, but old Vladimir always struggled quite a bit with Rumble. It was definitely typically a one-sided matchup because of Rumble's bullying power.
There's potential, I think, for it to go either way. I think it's going to depend a lot on how our Giscard handles the lane more than how Cavalry handles the lane, because Vladimir's kind of something about a binary champion. You know, he does the thing that he does, and he doesn't really extend beyond that. There's no like combos, animation canceling, nothing that you can do kind of within his kit. It's just about your raw positioning as a player more than your usage of the kit.
Absolutely. Can you dodge skill shots with pool that would kill you? That's about the gist of it.
It's very true.
And we have entered our 3-minute delay. We're actually a little past that. We are going to take this opportunity to take a minor break, and we'll be back once we're in game. And we're in the first match of our final match. This is the first match of the finals. It's so unusually late for our finals match, but it's nice to have quite a huge turnout for the tournament this week.
Yeah, it's got both its blessings and its curses, as we have Supernova here on the blue side and NCSU Prime on the red, rush into what appears to be a pretty standard setup across the river here.
Nothing too surprising or unusual, both doing the standard line of scrimmage.
Reverie may find Giscard in the bush. He's just going in for a little bit of scouting. As Puree dances a disco number for us on the bottom side of the map.
That's a new Ash skin.
Is that her bow? That's her bow.
That is her bow. It actually functions as a, functions as lights for dancing floor.
It's a light show and a beatbox, it seemed. That bow is multifaceted. And we're back.
A very versatile tool.
In case this is ever needed in a combat scenario.
Celebratory dancing.
Also, I'm sure that dance is a reference to something, but it's something I'm simply not getting. And it looks rather silly as a result.
I'm sure I'll learn it from eventually.
Philly and Yeniar will be starting at the Krugs camp as we see Puree and Hani starting at the Gromp themselves. So both bottom lanes looking to get a little bit of an XP advantage. The Krugs is slightly different in the way that it's taken, though, than the Gromp, in that it is possible to split up the XP here. Ever since the jungle changes a few patches ago now, XP is not shared between multiple members of a team when a jungle monster goes down, and whoever gets the killing blow is granted the XP.
It's a clever way to try and reduce the amount of early pressure from those taking those early camps.
So since Yeniar was gifted both of the Krugs, the mini and the major, he will be the only one to be getting any sort of XP boost here. But Puree was given the full extent of the Gromp on the other side, of course, so it'll be matched by Ash.
Things are slow in the top lane. Oh, Handy taking a little poke there.
Yeah, he's going for a similarly aggressive playstyle that we saw out of his last Karma match, but it's not quite as easy to accomplish against a Caitlyn matchup as opposed to a Sivir. Still, though, they are shoving decently hard. Yeniar not quite landing that Peacemaker.
And you have to play very carefully around those traps, because it can be very painful to repeatedly run into those.
Yeah, Yeniar set up a decent little cupcake shop for himself.
It's so cruel, trapping Yordles with cupcakes.
I don't think Yordles are the only prey that Caitlyn goes for. There's been a worrying trend, and this is a bit of an aside, but there's been a worrying trend with skins and champions voice lines for Riot recently, where they'll have them use an ability and warn the enemy about the ability. Puree tosses out the volley of arrows there and shouts, "Keep your head down." Sivir throws out the boomerang and shouts, "Better duck." I mean, I understand it's meant to be sarcastically driven, but it still doesn't seem like good battle tactics.
It's not. But
especially from a character who's supposed to be the queen of the gosh darn Freljord.
She's soft and doesn't want to make too many enemies. Oh,
Stashing his
Combs!
way over the unraveled earth takes a big chunk of damage there. There's the... Oh! I don't even remember the name of the ability, but darn was it good. That's some first blood action for Shadow Visions. Answered back as a piercing arrow comes from Hopeful, but still nicely played from Shadow.
Absolutely. Combs came in and melted. That was, I can't imagine he was expecting that level of damage output, but Shadow's showing how it's done.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to get down that unraveled earth really quickly and reflexively as the body slam was just starting to be casted. And of course, if you use any movement abilities across that unraveled earth from Talia, it procs as if she had dealt the damage to you herself with seismic shove.
Yeah, that's definitely very uncomfortable. It's basically an earthy minefield.
It's nasty. It's nasty. And I really like the direction that Riot has gone, with a few reworks and champion releases towards anti-mobility in some regards, with Talia's Unraveled Earth and with Steadfast Presence off the new Poppy. I think it's a great answer to the mobility creep, which has been something of an issue for a long time in League of Legends, rather than just giving everybody mobility so that nobody's mobile anymore, really, relative to one another. Instead, give tools to counter it directly.
Absolutely. That was a good approach.
Ooh, wow. There's a flash in for the NATO from Philly, but a flash away from Puree. He read that quickly and reacted appropriately. Puree still may be going down here, though, as he doesn't have much more health left to work with. There's the shield. Eye of the Storm almost saving his life, but Philly will finish off the kill. Or pardon me, not Eye of the Storm. That's Philly, who's going down here. Plucking Penguin will be finishing off the kill onto that one, as our Giscard teleporting into the bottom lane wants a slice of this pie, and he gets it. Gragas goes down, and in the end, that will be NCSU Prime with their cross-map mobility taking home a win in the bottom lane.
Very, very nice roam down from the mid lane, along with the jungle sport and the teleport from Giscard. They're not going to take Dragon, but still as taking 2 for 1.
And NCSU is demonstrating again that they're very mindful of the map, able to get places quickly, able to read where their opponents might be showing up and anticipate it and react. It's a very powerful tool. That's almost the most powerful tool you can have in your toolkit at high-level play.
And speaking of map mobility, Shadow Visions has picked up his ultimate, so going to be able to use that for mobility and to wall people off.
And actually, he's picked it up before almost anybody else in the game. Hopeful is the only one matching him, as Cavalery and Giscard still are just about hitting level 6 now.
Cavalery having a much better time than old Vladimir would have it, rushing that early Spectral Cowl.
And I'm really interested to see what NCSU's next move is here, because they have those Rek'Sai tunnels all over the map. They've got vision set up as well in a good few key areas. They really have an opportunity to attempt to make a play in the next few minutes, and there's a Volcanic Drake waiting for them. Maybe it's down here on the bottom side as Hani goes a little bit aggressive.
But Yenny and Philly, not too worried, they're reacting appropriately to those aggressive plays.
Oh, hey, there we see demonstrated that wards actually give vision now. Plucking Penguin hitting the level 6 off of clearing a bit of vision out. It was a change made to penalize supports less for roaming to gain vision control.
So definitely a nice change, because I remember back in, Season 2, where...
Oh, wow. We may have to get back to this in a moment. Hopeful is going to be flashing forward, but the seismic shove doesn't quite land. And actually, Hopeful, despite being the aggressor in that play, backs out after just a few blows are traded.
And definitely not interested in being shoved into that minefield.
Oh, yeah. And Shadow Visions was just too far back. He was playing safely. He sniffed some danger with his Talia senses.
And he's going to shield himself to avoid that damage. See Cavalery playing it safe. He is actually keeping him CS just fine, but he is hiding in the bushes to avoid any kind of damage. Hopeful getting donated that blue buff. Going to be very useful.
Well, he's plucking Penguin over the wall. If he can catch up with Hopeful, then it would be a pretty easy kill, but catching up with Hopeful doesn't seem to be on the billing tonight.
Little early on coming over the wall there, but ooh.
Yeah. Ooh, indeed. Some nice damage onto Shadow Visions. Hopeful is still working only with base damage pretty much as well. Runes and Masteries, I suppose, are in there too, as he's just picked up the tier.
That means his damage is only going to get increased dramatically once he gets finished.
That Rangers focus hurt quite a bit. Nicely placed Cupcake will actually snare a Puree. Philly doesn't quite go down. And now we're in full retreat mode here from NCSU. Flash over the wall from Cavalery. There's the Hemo Plague. Here comes the ace in the hole, and that will spell doom for Pluck and Penguin as Cavalery continues the chase onto Puree. Doesn't quite have his Rylai, so he doesn't have much CC of his own, but Puree is just not able to create the distance he needs, and there's got to be enough damage coming out of this Vladimir sometime soon. There we go. He presses E, presses Q, and he gets the kill even under the turret.
Despite all efforts by Puree, he couldn't quite get away from the Vlad.
Yeah,
Cavalery.
Teleport, indeed.
Absolutely. Cavalery definitely getting the worth from his teleport, picking up a kill and an assist. And that evens out the kills.
I was curious. This is a bit of an aside, but earlier we were seeing a lot of trades with Hani where he'd go really aggressive and drop empowered, mantra-empowered soul flares onto Philly mainly seemed to be his target, and they weren't doing as much damage as I anticipated. And I actually alt-tabbed here, looked up his rune page on op.gg, and he's running a good amount more health than I thought he would. He's got plus 72 health coming out of the rune page alone, which means he's definitely running 2, maybe even 3 health quints in there.
Definitely interesting and a little more staying power rather than doing the damage.
I mean, he's also sitting on Just looking at it here, 10.9 AP and some magic pen. Looks like he's got hybrid pen marks in there, I'd imagine. So he's not completely foregoing damage, but a lot less than you'd see out of a lot of other early game Carmens, as demonstrated right there against Philly.
He is going to pick up that pink ward and do a little harass, but nothing too serious. And we see Reverie has finished his Spirit Visage, so he is going to be very durable.
Very powerful item here in the matchup against Giscard. There's the farm alarm for Plucking Penguin rushing to the bottom side of the map, and we may yet see some more action down here. This bottom lane has really been the focus for both of these teams. Shadow Visions was sitting in vision of a ward, though. So we may yet see it fizzle out. And interestingly enough, despite the fact that pretty much every skirmish has taken place down here in the bottom side, Volcanic Drake is still sitting there, uncontested.
Absolutely. No one's had enough health to really take it after one of those little skirmishes we've seen.
It may yet be starting off, though. Plucking Penguin was in the pit. It looks like he was just cleaning out some vision. But cleaning out vision is the preemptive move to starting the Drake.
Well, it is moving around. It has been hit, but they're ignoring it since they know that Combs is nearby.
Honey's a little bit alone here.
They're pinging him.
There isn't a lot of engage potential, however, and it looks like both sides are eventually going to back off. That bottom lane was looking pretty spicy for a few moments there, but didn't end up turning into anything.
Cavalry's going in.
To the dive. There's the equalizer drop. Cavalry getting burned dangerously low, but he does have his pool and the health off of that ulti, as I mentioned in draft. And he'll get the solo kill onto Giscard underneath the turret. This is the top lane carry style I was talking about. Hani going to be dodging away, I should say, from that Peacemaker, but there is no dodging away from the ulti, unless I suppose it's in the Gragas ulti, as he flashes out of an explosive cast. Still, though, 2 summoners burned for Combs' time.
Definitely having the sense of mind to basically avoid the Gragas ult and actually putting himself in a position where it pushes him away from Yenny and Philly there. Very well played.
Fury's playing a dangerous game, sticking around this close to the wave. This low on health and missing a heal. Combs does get spotted out by a ward, though, so I imagine we see Puree back up, yeah.
Puree is not interested in joining the dead there.
Not interested in being Puree. That's a remarkably malignant image.
Ew.
I wish I hadn't thought of that now. Darn you, brain, and your inexhaustible supply of wonderful puns.
Hannibal might like it.
I never knew that I could be so betrayed by my own puns. Plucking Penguin will secure himself a red buff, and actually we have a few moments of control on the top side as Cavalry was walking back towards the lane. If they had had perfect vision, we may have seen a Rift Herald attempt, but perfect vision is not something you often see.
This is going rather slow. Both teams are fairly even currently. We are seeing Cavalry actually taking control of that top line with that early dive.
Really deep vision control by Hani here. Feeling potentially a little more safe than I thought he would and maybe thought he should going into the enemy jungle.
And it looks like they're actually setting up for an Infernal Drake here.
Once again, jockeying for control around that Drake pit. Plucking Penguin's going to start it off. A blue trinket will spot them out. Shadow Visions is off to the side, looking for maybe a pincer maneuver onto this fight. Hani gets chunked down decently low. Shadow Visions finds a little bit of damage himself, however, as Combs gets snared up. The Dragon, now down to a few hundred hit points, will be stolen away by the Gragas. Cavalry teleporting into the fight, goes down dangerously low, but dodges out from a crystalline arrow with his Sanguine Pool. Plucking Penguin get into the back of this fight, nearly brings down Combs, but gets bursted before he can manage it. CC chained to the train station of death and back. Oh, and there's Hopeful across the wall with a piercing arrow. Takes home the 1-for-1 trade, but with the secure from Combs, that is still in favor here of Supernova as they get the Dragon and the trade.
Supernova taking a very decent advantage. They're going to take the Dragon, 2 kills, and a turret. Looked fairly even at first, but Supernova aggressively pushing back into that Dragon to secure it. Not afraid to use the summoners and the teleport to get in there.
Interesting, tiny little thing there. Both Philly and Yetiar got 5 gold for that destroyed Rek'Sai tunnel. It isn't proprietary to whoever started the destruction of the Rek'Sai tunnel. You could theoretically get 25 gold out of an enemy Rek'Sai tunnel if all 5 members of your team were standing on it when it was destroyed. because it just gives gold to anybody standing on it when it gets broken.
I did not know that. That's something interesting. Not
It's almost entirely irrelevant,
almost.
but really neat nonetheless.
Doesn't
Gives a little bit
hurt.
of insight into how the game is built, if nothing else.
Absolutely. And here we are, everyone returning back to their respective lanes.
Got some pretty powerful item spikes for the top laners here. Reverie, as you said, has the Spirit Visage. Just going to make him a bit of a tanky monster in these team fights. But on the other side, Giscard has picked up the now core item for a top lane Rumble. Rumble in general, I mean, even if you saw him somewhere else strange, you'd still likely see him go for the Proto Belt because it does weave its way so wonderfully into his kit. And as we see these teleports get available once again, build through their cooldowns, I imagine Giscard and Reverie will have something to say about the next few fights. Unless they're too busy soloing each other out on the top side.
For now, it looks like Killroyd has the advantage. He has, despite this, the little, he's not quite as head in CS, but in terms of trades, he seems to be winning for the time being.
Ooh, nice arrow from Hopeful.
Hopeful showing off some pretty strong prowess on that Varus. He has the Ghost Blade, he has the Hex Drinker, still hasn't finished that Mana Moon yet. Probably won't until it's a Muramana, I imagine.
Hopeful is one of those perennial awesome things to have on your team. A very reliable solo laner. He almost never loses lane. And even if he doesn't win lane, he will always come out with enough gold to be impactful. And this game is no different. He may not have absolutely crushed his opposition as Shadow Vision's sitting on 3 kills of his own, but he's 2-0 and he's got a Yumu's completed, and he is a force to be reckoned with nonetheless. Hopeful knows how to maneuver his way through a laning phase so that he's pretty much never irrelevant.
So far, it looks like the only lane that's at a huge disadvantage was top lane. You see that Cavalry was able to zone out Giscard a little bit there, force him back to... But other than that, other lanes seem to be mostly even.
Top lane, I would say Cavalry does have the upper hand in, though, if only because of his ability to sustain between these trades now. In each individual trade, Giscard is pulling about even for damage, especially with the tower there supporting him, but Cavalry is just going to keep on healing up after each one of these trades, which is something Giscard simply can't accomplish, so...
Absolutely, especially with the changes to ooh.
Yenio going to get snared up here. Puree dropping his ulti, but he's dangerously low himself. The exhaust now onto both AD carries. There's the flash in from Philly, but he doesn't cut. A flash from Hani, and both supports flash in, neither one accomplishing their goal as Yeniar goes down, or Yeniar gets the kill rather, bringing down Puree with a little bit of an underwhelming Q at the end of the fight. Coombs bursting down Shadow Vision as he tries to Talia ult his way into potentially a kill. As now he's down here chasing after Hani. He's going for the tower dive, actually. Body slam doesn't connect, and that's going to put the Knicks to that play.
Absolutely, a nice little catch on Shadow Visions as well. Poor Hani tried so hard to take that Caitlyn ultimate, but didn't quite put the flash in the right spot.
And it's unfortunate, too, because it wasn't even entirely necessary for him to take the Caitlyn ulti. Just simply walking away, flashing away, even if he deemed that necessary, would have been enough to get himself out of there. And Yeniar probably would have still gotten out. I mean, pardon me, Puree. I keep getting the 80 carries. Their names swapped for some reason. Puree probably still would have gotten out had it not been for that piltover from Yeniar that was rather nicely placed.
He actually
Honestly,
stopped moving after that flash missed for some reason. I'm not sure why.
I think maybe there was some amount of disbelief being expressed, perhaps, in team chat. All chat, if they're particularly BM.
He probably was laughing, making fun of Hani. How could you miss that flash kind of deal?
The 4-man group on the bottom side here from NCSU, though, as it looks like they want to answer back with a turret take of their own. There's the stun on the Yeniar. He will be shut down. Plucking Penguin gladly taking up this turret so that Combs may die. Down to a few hundred hit points himself, but he'll be fine.
NCSU picking up 2 kills in a turret.
And the Rift Herald returns itself to the void as we reach about the 20-minute mark on the map. Dragon will be with us again in just a few seconds, and it looks like that is the focus here for NCSU, as it's yet another Volcanic Drake. This one hopefully not going to be stolen away from them.
A little early by Hopeful there.
Plucking Penguin around to smite. The chance of a steal was rather minuscule. Wow!
Wow, that hurt a lot.
And that's with two sort of arguably semi-utility items in his inventory. Well, one very much utility item in the form of the tier, but even Mob Malmortius isn't like a pure damage item. It's got a bit of its budget dedicated towards magic resist.
Absolutely, but that is the power of the armor penetration we're seeing from both the Maw and the Ghostblade.
Yeah, that's true. And the lack of armor really on the opposing side, as no one has built a single armor item yet. Well, no, there's a cloth armor. Not really going to accomplish too much, but a cloth armor nonetheless for Plucking Penguin. A slight nod in the direction of the double 80 carry composition from the opposite side. That's something we didn't really touch on. I really like the Varus mid lane pick with a Vladimir top, because it diversifies your damage enough.
Absolutely. I think I mentioned it during Champions League. I was a little worried about how heavy the magic damage they were being at the time, but then they picked the Varus to even things out. Cavalry could be in trouble here.
Avoids a good amount of damage. There's the flash on to Giscard, but Giscard just about escapes by the skin of his teeth. Cavalry going to be tossed back by a seismic shove. He buys some more time. As Vladimir refuses to go down soon, his pool will be back up. He heals a little bit more. Shadow Visions does finish off some easier prey in the form of Philly, but here's Yeniar off from the side, and nobody can stop this man. Auto attacks are flying in, and Yeniar has picked up a double kill for himself. Goes for the triple, but Combs is going to take it away.
Pure taking a lot of damage from that Varus. This might be the finish.
Oh, there it is, the finish indeed. And in style from Hopeful with a piercing arrow at basically max range. And that is Supernova dominating in a skirmishing team fight. Cavalry was a hero there, buying so much time on Vladimir to allow Yeni.
He was so durable. That's one of the reasons I always enjoyed Vladimir. Is he can be really frustrating to kill.
Oh, so very frustrating. With a Zonia's completed and the amount of tankiness he just has inherent in his kit. And he's got so much sort of cheating tankiness too, you know? Like, not true tankiness where you just have more health and armor and magic resist, more stats for them to burn through. But like, they actually literally just have to wait a few seconds to be able to continue damaging you through Zonia's and through the Sanguine Pool. Which is honestly more effective in a lot of cases than just having more stats.
Absolutely. You can't damage me if you can't hit me.
That is how it works, for the most part, yes. Damage over time effects, I suppose, the only thing that can still get him, but...
I don't think that applies to Zhonya's, but it does definitely apply when he is pooling.
Oh yeah, it doesn't apply to Zhonya's, that's for sure. Zhonya's is the real deal, as far as invulnerability is concerned.
Absolutely.
There ain't nothing that can touch you when you're golden. Still, though, a very solid fight by Supernova.
Absolutely.
5-man Baron strong now. They've got a lot of potential to control this map, and I think this is their game now to break open. That was huge for them. It was holding rather even up until that mark. I don't want to say that NCSU is out of this, but
they definitely need a serious mistake to happen to take control of the game back.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Supernova has to make some sort of mistake.
Cavalry taking a lot of damage there, but he is not too concerned.
Not really. He's going to be able to heal that back with great aplomb. 352 health per empowered transfusion. And they're just going to keep the siege going in the mid lane. Double 80 carry composition. These turrets are going to melt like butter under a hot knife.
And we see that NCSU has to be very careful because Hopeful's poke is very uncomfortable. And that's putting it lightly.
Mana to work with now. Having that tier, I believe, fully stacked up at this point.
Yeni might be in little trouble. There's the Philly.
Yeah, Philly getting burned down. The Monsoon not going to be quite enough to keep his team out of the fight entirely, but they don't have to be out of the fight entirely as they are passing the baton of damage beautifully around from one to another, and Hopeful is sniping off the kills as they get low.
So one for nothing.
Right now. Yeah.
Giscard being the only victim there. He does not quite have any defensive items yet.
And with another minion wave to work with, they will continue their shove onto the turret here. Cavalry takes up the front line for his team. The turret gets melted away into smithereens. Cavalry now tossing down his ulti, even just as much for zoning control as it is actually for damage. Now the inhibitor is under fire, and it will not last very long. That's an inhibitor down after a Baron buff take, an almost clean ace, and a 1-for-0 trade. Suddenly, snowballing advantage upon advantage. Supernova have huge control.
So this is going to be another turret that there's absolutely nothing to do for NCSU to be here. They can't possibly stop this.
And it's hard to believe that we're only 25 minutes into a game that looks so much like it should be another 10 minutes longer on the clock. But Supernova, I mean, we said earlier that NCSU, they move like a unit and they have great map presence, map awareness, and map control. Supernova not so much slouches themselves in that matter, it seems.
Absolutely not. Didn't see quite as many roams from them, but they did it quite well in terms of team fighting and baiting. Reverie, of course, being the star there.
It seems like once they broke out of their laning phase shell, they did a great job of coming together and of taking these skirmishes, and just suddenly everything has exploded out into this game for them.
Absolutely.
I think the Dragon up in about 30 seconds is going to be the next test of these two teams.
Currently, do you see Supernova has this slight lead, about 7k gold. Actually, no, a little more than that.
That's a little more than slight, I'd say, especially given that they've played some of these skirmishes supremely well as well.
Absolutely. Giskard's not having the easiest time. He is relatively squishy for a Rumble.
Yeah, he does seem a little bit out of his element off of that Shen pick that you said you've only ever seen him play on.
That's going to be the Drake completely uncontested. Looked like NCSU really wanted to try and contest, but they're afraid.
And that'll be the Mountain Drake, giving it a little bit more pushing power, as if they really needed it. And with Infernal Drake and Mountain Drake with a double 80 carry composition, turrets are not going to last very long. I mean, even as well with a Janna to shield up Hopeful or Yeniar and boost their AD even further.
There's not much they can hope for to stall the game out in terms of the turret health.
Oh, there's the Weaver's Wall, going to be splitting Hopeful off from the rest of the team, forcing his flash backwards. Talia ulti traded, it seems, for a flash. Puree actually burned Crystalline Arrow himself, though.
See, actually a flash
down.
coming both at a Yeni and Hopeful. He also popped his cleanse.
2 ults down for 3 summoners. A pretty solid trade, but still not enough to halt this shove here.
Seeing that poke coming out of Hopeful.
Reverie is going to take out the front line again, flashing backwards onto the Ashe, even almost getting the kill in what appears to be something of a 1v4 situation now, popping into the zone just to buy time for the rest of his team to catch up to his aggressiveness. That will be Rek'Sai falling as the turret goes down. Yeniar is on a rampage with Rumble falling to his hail of bullets at this point. This may very well be game.
This looks like Supernova is going to be able to take these turrets very easily, especially with the double ED comp.
Second Nexus turret, the big ol' inhibitor. Second big ol' inhibitor turret going down. The Nexus now under fire. Hopeful and Yeniar will make short work of this. This is a last-ditch effort from Shadow Visions coming forward with that Q. There's the seismic shove. Yeniar nearly goes down, but it would have been just a consolation prize on the back of a loss in the first game of our best of 3 series.
Absolutely, a valiant effort by NCSU Prime to try and recover there, but Supernova taking a nice firm lead after the mid game started.
Yeah, Supernova, they just exploded onto this game, took advantage of some mistakes in positioning from NCSU Prime near the top side of the map, near that Baron buff, and just they had the mark of a great team. You know, they take an advantage and they don't just leave it at that. They snowball it into more and more and more, and they keep pushing until they win.
Absolutely. Let me take this opportunity to change the overlays a little bit. Get the teams on the right side since we are going to having a side swap. It looks like all the teams are... Everybody's rejoining the lobby. We'll probably take a couple minutes, give you guys some music. We'll be back into Champion Select very shortly. And here we go, the second match of our finals, with Supernova taking the first game very convincingly despite it looking fairly even in the beginning.
Yeah, pretty darn solid laning phase from both numbers, but Supernova just kind of rocketing their way into the mid game and blowing the whole game over within 10 minutes after the 15-minute mark.
And seeing some bans coming up, they're not interested in letting Cavalry play Vladimir again.
Yeah, he was a force to be reckoned with. He was playing that front line and being a nuisance to just about everybody. The guy was pushing the limits of Vlad, and Vlad has some pretty pushable limits.
Absolutely. They were so close to killing him when they ganked him, and he's just like, oh, I'm not gonna die, not gonna die, not gonna die, not gonna die.
Just by a year for my team to show up. The Aurelian Soul ban still, though, against Shadow Visions. And, of course, the Shen ban against Giscard, and a Hecarim ban against Plucking Penguin. I mean, if it doesn't, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely. That does leave Aurelia, and I actually do not remember what the other ban was. It was Aurelia, and what else did they have banned? I cannot remember now.
Varus banned out. What was in the picture? That is a good question. I can't actually recall off the top of my head either. As that's the first pick Sivir for the side of NCSU Prime.
So Puree and Hanny very likely to get their go-to combination for the team fights, the Sivir Karma.
Oh man, I would love to see Cavalry on the cannon here. But it may
Ooh.
be the Karma stolen away. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. You don't really want to let them get the Sivir and Karma together. It just becomes almost impossible to avoid having the opponent engage on you in a favorable situation then. And, of course, a Rek'Sai in the first round of picks is not very surprising.
Absolutely. That actually takes Plucking Penguin's two-man picks. I actually have only ever seen him on Hecarim and Rek'Sai. So that's going to be interesting to see how he reacts to that. Definitely taking a route to force NCSU Prime off some of their comfort picks.
Graves would make a lot of sense just by the meta right now. With Hecarim out of the picture, with Rek'Sai out of the picture. Gragas is on the table. He could go for that. Graves, Gragas, Elise are pretty much the three that I would say would be likely picked up here. It looks like Elise may be the contender.
Absolutely. Still hovering on that Elise. We're actually seeing an Akali hover, which I don't think I've ever seen an Akali in. It is not going to be Akali. My hopes and dreams are dashed there.
I did not think so, especially this early in the draft before Hopeful has even given any sort of glimpse of his mid lane options.
Absolutely.
Shadow Visions is going to go with a much more safe pick.
In the Victor.
Victor. Yeah.
Absolutely. Does make sense. It's very picking a champion like Akali extremely risky that early in the draft. Yeah, we're have to see. We still need a top laner, AD carry, and a mid laner for Supernova. They have a number of options here.
Yeah. Talia is available if they want to go that direction, but that seemed more to be Shadow Vision's MO than Hopeful's. Varus is banned out, so he can't go back to his old standby. There's the Malzahar pickup to match off against the Vladimir.
That's what it was. It was Malzahar. Malzahar was the other ban.
That's true. Yeah, you're correct. Xeniar goes on to the Ashe, which Puree played off against him last round.
Well, Yeni deciding to turn the tables here. He's going to show Puree how to play Ashe. Though I didn't think that Puree actually had a pretty good game. At least in the laning phase, he did fine.
Yeah, I think both sides had really pretty much equivalent laning phases, but then Supernova, they found a weakness and they exploited it to the nth degree.
Absolutely. We still need a support and a top laner.
I would really like to see the Blitzcrank, but I don't think we will alongside a Sivir. It doesn't make a ton of sense because Sivir's not really going to be able to outduel the Karma Ashe combo, so you don't really want to pick fights in that lane. Yeah, Bard makes a lot more sense here, and Trundle to the top lane. A nice old, sort of, old faithful top laner there.
Absolutely. The standard, I don't know what they're going to pick, so I'm going to pick something that's safe. And it is going to be a Kennen top lane.
There it is. Kennen alongside Karma is a very nice combo. So not only taking that to keep it out of the hands of their opponents to keep them from having Sivir Karma, but also it synergizes very well alongside their own Kennen. So I like Supernova's composition here. They're a little bit low on mobility on their carries. Both Malzahar and Ashe have no sort of intrinsic mobility, and while Kennen does have a speed buff, he doesn't really have any instant mobility either. But you could say the same thing really about the mid laner and AD carry for the opposing team. So it doesn't really need to be matched if it's not there.
Absolutely. We do see a lot of pick potential out of the side of Supernova. They have Malzahar, they have Ashe, they have Karma, and then they have follow up by Kennen for the AoE ultimate. So they have very strong composition. I think I favor their comp a little bit more, but definitely can't rule out NCSU here. We are going to be entering our 3-minute delay, so we're going to take this opportunity to enter a tiny commercial break, and we'll be back once we hit the game. And here we are. We are back into the second game. We have at North. Dang it! They have to fix the title again. A little tags are a little off because of 4-digit lettering.
NCSU Prime, North Carolina State University Prime on the blue side, facing off against Supernova Gaming on the red. Supernova having taken home, after the laning phase at the very least, a very decisive game 1. And looking to close it out with a 2-0 sweep here, but we do have NCSU stacked as a 5-man sitting in a bush and maybe going for some level 1 shenanigans.
They definitely have the potential here with the Bard. And...
Oh, Philly has to flash out of there.
a nice
I
little...
didn't quite read the flash correctly.
Definitely good effort, though. It's not wasted at all. Philly has no flash. That's going to put him possibly in a dangerous situation if there is any focus on that bottom lane like we saw last game.
Yeah, and I imagine there will be. The bottom lane was a huge center of conflict for pretty much the entirety of the laning phase. Every time a teleport was up or a Talia ulti was available, it was used in that direction. And now Hopeful is even running teleport himself, so there's 2 teleports available for the side of Supernova, who already showed that they were quite willing to use those to make plays cross-map. And again, both duo laners are going to be starting off at a jungle camp, getting a little bit of an XP advantage.
Yeah. Basically the exact same thing we saw last game. Both junglers are top, and both bottom laners are doing the camps.
Mm-hmm.
So not too much has changed here, other than obviously we have NCSU on the blue side this time around.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense in a matchup that seems to have such a focus on a skirmishy bottom lane from both sides. Curé really early picking that Sivir does mean that they don't have a lot of the same sort of lane contestation that they might have had otherwise, but they're still trading all right. This Philly takes a Meep enhanced auto and tosses back with a Soul Flare. And a nice combo from Henny, but he's going to have to flash away as an empowered Soul Flare slows him enough that that volley of arrows might have spelled doom. Now both supports are missing their flashes.
Absolutely. Currently, Supernova taking a slight advantage, but that's probably a given that Ashe probably does a little more damage than Sivir does.
Mm-hmm. Range is a pretty large factor in that matchup as follows. Ashe can usually get an extra auto attack, maybe even 2 off during the course of a skirmish, just because of the fact that she actually has one of the longest auto attack ranges in the game.
Not too many characters surpass that.
Yeah, Caitlyn, Tristana when she's buffed, Kog'Maw. There's very few.
Combs coming to that mid lane to force Shadow's flash. Very well placed tunnel.
Hani playing a little aggressive. Is going to take a few arrows from Yennear's quiver. Rangers focused enhance nonetheless. And that'll be something of a failed gank attempt from Pluck and Penguin as we see another gank attempt here from Combs. Doesn't really get who he's looking for either.
Shadow getting eaten alive a little bit by the little cute voidlings.
I was not aware that they had a taste for half man, half machine. Maybe they're just eating the man part.
Maybe they don't see anything. I don't know.
Cavallari's coming in. It looks like he's going for the 1v1 here, but he does have a jungler waiting in the wing. Cavallari taking some good damage from that mini wave, and from Giscard has to flash out of there as Giscard flashes in onto him, looking to try and finish off a cheeky kill in the 2v1, but will go down for the first blood as we see Combs get off the first successful gank of the game.
He might have gotten Cavalry if he hadn't hesitated on continue the attack there.
Mm-hmm.
But he walked away and then flashed back to try and burst him down, but Cavalry responding very well with its own flash at that point.
And he split lines of play a little bit, which is something that almost never ends well. We have Hani going in for the stun attempt, but only going to be landing the slow into Philly. As he gets exhausted himself, Yennear, the exhaust drop onto him, doesn't quite have the damage he needs to finish off the Bard. Without a flash available, Philly will be going down to a face full of buckshot. Fury tosses out a boomerang, shouts better duck, and Yennear, not quite taking the advice, nearly dies.
That is very, very close. I can see that's definitely not a lot of health. Very uncomfortable.
Not a lot. The official analysis of effects.
If only I could see his health.
Well, the teleport burned from Hopeful into the mid lane. And they do still have Cavalries in their back pocket, though he's spacing right now and maybe yet burning his towards the top side. And if we do see that, then that'll be both teleports down for a short while here. It looks like he's going to be walking his way back.
he is a cannon. He's going to be a little fast. Thanks to the ability that turns him into a nice little ball of lightning.
Lightning Rush, I believe, is the name.
That sounds correct. I'm going to go with it.
Yeah, Lightning Rush is because of his energy-based pool and the fact that it's not too terribly long of a cooldown. He is able to get back to lane just in time to catch these waves. Nice little benefit of playing cannon. The other benefit being that you get to be a ninja hamster.
A ninja hamster who wields lightning.
Pretty darn cool.
Definitely a little unusual in terms of the fantasy archetype. But people love it. Pure taking a little damage there, but returning it all the same.
Yeah, onto Philly as Yeniel takes a chunk there from the Karma. Yeniar stepping forwards. But there is a large minion wave, so Philly and Yeniar I don't really think can take that trade. Not at the moment. So overall, they're still sitting honestly rather even on the bottom side, but just by dint of the Ashe versus Sivir, I'd say Ashe has a little bit of an advantage there. This is the flash in for the Nether Grasp. Shadow Vision will have himself grasped to death.
Shadow Vision's not really having the tools to help him survive a burst combo from a Malzahar. He does not have heal, he does not have barrier. Opting for the Ghost instead.
So he gets a little bit of healing off of that empowered snare. As we see the sort of continued brawling on the bottom side of the map here. Nice dodge from that Cosmic Binding from Yeniar.
These bottom laners have no calm. They're very interested in fighting and skirmishing each other.
Which I appreciate.
Absolutely.
I love a good 2v2 lane. Nothing better.
Absolutely. It makes for a very, very exciting watch. Instead of, hey, look, I won't hit you if you don't hit me.
Philly flashing in, actually. He's really looking for the snares. We have the farm alarm to the bottom side of the map and a teleport from Cavalry. He's going to take a magical journey towards Hani, but he does get stunned against the wall, bound there cosmically. Puree tries to get close enough to the wall to flash into the dragon pit, but it is an effort in vain. Collapses and gives up his coffer of 300 gold over to Yeniar.
Puri not quite getting the communication. He probably could have taken the magical journey if he had just walked a little bit further south, but he went for the Tribush instead and paid the price.
This time it is Supernova moving like a unit and making those plays cross-map during the very much laning phase portion of the game. And it's going to result very, very realistically, actually certainly here, in a Volcanic Drake for them as their opposite number, Plucking Penguin, up on the top side is doing Rift Herald.
Yeah, so we've seen the advantage of Cavalry saving his teleport. And we're seeing Rift Herald going down. Probably going to end up going to... Could go to either Penguin or Giskard and be relatively efficient.
Combs going very aggressively on the Shadow Visions here, but there's the flash forward, and Hani actually with a Meep enhanced auto attack will finish off the kill onto the Karma. That was some overzealousness from Combs, kind of baiting Philly forwards into the death.
Poor Philly, he was sacrificed.
Just trying to help out his jungler. Turns out his jungler didn't need to be helped, didn't need to be doing a play quite that aggressive in the first place.
Absolutely. Seeing a very slight advantage going to Supernova, but it is far too early to say who is going to win here.
That Volcanic Drake is going to be really super valuable. Rift Herald is something I would even trade for it, but they've got quite a bit of damage. He's going to scale that up really hard. Yeniar just about dodging out that Tempered Fate. Does have to flash away from a Cosmic Binding that would have been death.
Yeah.
Now it looks like they are maybe looking for a counter engage. Puree spell shields out the volley. Looks like bottom lane will go back to a very tenuous piece.
Cavalry deciding he wants to back, possibly? Nope, he is... I have no idea what he's doing. He's just kind of hanging out.
Yeah, you're sitting on another crystalline arrow. It's off of its cooldown now. That's sort of the main show as far as engage goes on the bottom side. There's the magical journey, and you're going to get exhausted here, slowed up by Cosmic Binding. No flash available on this Ashe to get him out of trouble, and it looks like the heal will not be nearly enough. Puree finishes off the kill after zooming his way in there on the Sivir ulti.
Giskard getting stunned up a little bit, but he does He does have some magic resist, so he is not going to be taking too much damage thanks to his sustain and the magic resist.
And credit where credit is due. Giscard has actually done a great job of holding his own up here. 72 CS actually ahead of Cavalry by a good few.
Opting for the... Ooh, Combs might be... No, he's fine. He has opted for both the Doran Shield and the Corrupting Potion, so he has some resistance to those auto attacks and sustain to back it up.
Yeah, and he's more than happy to just sit here and take the occasional trade with Cavalry and farm it up. That on top of the Glimpse of the Void buff that he's currently wearing means that should any real sort of fight break out, he actually does stand a pretty darn good chance of holding his own in the 1v1 here.
Absolutely. If they can find a way to force Cavalry's flash, he could very likely get a kill.
It'd be hard for him to chase one down, but yeah, if Cavalry ever like opts into a fight with him or something, Giscard has real potential to come out on top, which I think is why we're seeing a less aggressive lane than Cavalry was previously playing.
Absolutely. But definitely hats off to Giscard for playing well. He is keeping up just fine.
And he's back on one of these melee mega tanks, like the Shen that we've seen him on previously. So I think he's just a lot more within his own wheelhouse and on a comfort pick here.
Absolutely. We're seeing, other than that, seeing quite a bit of a discrepancy in the mid lane. We see Hopeful with a 20 CS lead here.
Yeah, maybe there's a reason they banned out the Malzahar in the last match. Opting this match to ban the Varus instead has left it open to Hopeful, who's jumped on the opportunity here.
Certainly. Other than that, though, all the lanes seem to be pretty even. We see even CS in the bot lane with both carries having that BF sword. Cool. Combs come from mid lane gank, but...
There's an answer from Pluck and Penguin. He's nearby. It looks like he's going to fizzle out. And here's the Tempered Fate just as Crystalline Arrow lands. Nicely placed Bard ult for Amahani. Philly's going to be snaring him up as he comes around the corner, but Yeniar is getting bursted dangerously low. And Puree finishes off the kill. Philly will be the next to fall as Giscard takes it home. And that's NCSU answering back.
Seeing two teleports being popped through. Hopeful popped his own, but was unable to assist. There really wasn't any vision wards for him to get too close to the fight.
Yeah, that was Yeniar going a little bit over-aggressive there. Not able to avoid the Tempered Fate, and he pays for it dearly. Now we have Shadow Visions ghosting forward. They think they found a kill here onto Hopeful, and they may very well be right. Meanwhile, on the bottom side of the map, a stun against the wall for Combs, as he's just trying his darndest to hold underneath that turret. Cavalry going to be following Hani forward, as actually Malzahar made it out of that fight. Hopeful managed to survive what seemed to be a pretty darn unsurvivable scenario when we last saw the guy.
Absolutely. He was able, it looked like he flashed possibly over a wall to escape.
Yeah. That is a summoner down, though. Scully gets done. Hani been on point with his Bard play this game.
Absolutely. He's definitely having a very strong game. Nice to see that he can definitely play other characters.
I'm actually liking him a lot more on this Bard than I liked him on the Karma. He's played aggressively, which we've seen him play aggressively on the Karma, but like a stun has seemed to matter more in his hands than the slow did. And he's used the ult well, we've seen in a few situations as well. So just giving him something where he can be aggressive and try and make plays, a playmaking support, really, is, I think, quite good for him.
Absolutely. Seeing Cavalry has returned to the top lane. He actually did not... He did use his teleport to go to the bot lane to try and get something, but nothing came of it.
And now Cavalry really can't even make a dent into Giscard.
Giscard having that Spectral Call makes him quite durable. Working on Jerome's Fist. Probably for, I imagine, what is going to be a Titanic Hydra.
Possibly a Frozen Mallet. Some Trundles do like to go with that. But yeah, Titanic Hydra makes a lot of sense as well.
Gives him some much needed wave clear, which is one of Trundle's only weaknesses.
There's a stun on the Combs as he's tanking the turret in the meantime and gets out of there with a lot of pain. And there it is, the tunnel interrupted as Heaney lands another beautiful Bard. Hold a lot of damage to the Combs. He has to flash away. Shadow Vision's coming in from the side. There's the on the hunt pop. Crystalline Arrow gonna be halting. Shadow Vision's approach as Puree doesn't quite burn down.
I didn't even notice Puree took damage there. Wow.
One of the minions nearby him, I believe, or maybe Hopeful just straight up clicked on him. But one way or another, Malefic Visions managed to make its way onto Puree's Sivir. Wasn't quite enough damage to kill him.
That would have been kind of embarrassing. Like, we have the advantage here. We're chasing him down, and I have space aids.
You know, you never expect it. You never do.
Yeah, it definitely has the potential to do a lot of damage. And he doesn't even have that much AP right now. He only has the Melanimicon.
Drake is available once more. It's with us again on the Rift, and it looks like we'll see an NCSU placing a little bit more of a premium on it this time than their opposition has. As Plucking Penguin has actually started it off, and there's no contest. I don't think they're even aware this is happening. There is a pink ward that they're sitting on right now, and that's going to be the Drake going down. Plucking Penguin securing a Mountain Drake for his team. And the Volcanic will be the next one up to the order.
Definitely could potentially be very useful with the Sivir. Given them the pushing power on those turrets.
Yeah, with a sort of semi-double AD carry comp as well. Not quite the Varus Ashe that we saw in our match 2 games ago now, but still, even though they're rather shorter ranged, Graves and Sivir are nothing to be sniffed at when it comes to turret pushing.
Absolutely. Ooh, Yenny taking a lot of damage there from the Boomerang Blade.
Yeah, and Philly's going to get cut off as well. Bonnie does some good damage of his own. Cavalry is down here on the bottom side of the map, though.
Puree actually taking the magical journey this time around, so less risk of being caught out.
Giscard's been given kind of free reign up on top side, though. And there's not really much that Combs can do to shove him back.
Especially...
The turret may be forfeit. Yeah, it goes down.
Yep. Penguin was there to assist, just in case anything went wrong.
Let's see what Cavalry can accomplish on the other side of the map. Giving up that pressure on top side to come down here. And potentially push the turret in? Yeah, it looks like that's going to be their goal here.
Yeah, Puree and Henny are going to play it safe. They're not going to contest here.
That is a 1-for-1 turret trade. There is a small first blood bonus now on turrets, but we may have to get back to that in a second. Hopeful is bursted by Shadow Visions, popping the Ghost to get in there and secure that kill.
Absolutely. Hopeful not having much hope of escaping since he does not have Flash.
That joke was too easy. That was way too easy effect. I thought better of you, friend. Oh, the mid lane turret crumbles.
Sometimes
a 2-1 lead.
Sometimes the easy ones are nice to have.
We're gonna keep that adage to jokes here on the stream. We want to keep the rating PG, possibly PG-13.
Ooh,
There's
Plucking Penguin getting evaporated.
Oh, God, that is some straight up damage out of the cannon. Up until now, he's only been beaten up against the stone wall that is a Trundle, but seeing him hit some squishy targets, Cavalry is shredding people here. And now they're forcing Giscard to flash away. The Trundle may yet fall. He does indeed bleed, and he falls, in fact.
That was interesting.
Down. Billy crosses the wall with that magical journey, and he finishes up the kill with a soul flare.
Absolutely. So that is Supernova picking up 4 for nothing.
Yeah, Cavalry picking a fight aggressively, and his team snowballing off the back of it. Man, that guy did a huge burst of damage. Weaving in, again, the Protobell.
Absolutely.
Chunky first.
Plucking Penguin definitely not expecting to not even get an opportunity to fight back.
The Protobot right now is doing approximately 150 damage for cannon, which isn't a huge amount, but it's weaved in there with the rest of the kit, and it adds on top of that burst, like icing on top of a poison cake.
So especially on a character as squishy as a 80 carry, even one that isn't as squishy, because Graves of course has that natural tankiness.
Yeah, somebody even like Plucking Penguin is not going to last long in the face of that, as we saw him demonstrated for us. And I'm so glad that we got to see Cavalry fight someone that wasn't our Giscard, because that was getting tiresome, watching the Trundle continually heal through every single shuriken, thundering or otherwise, tossed his way.
Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of Trundle, we do see he has finished that Titanic Hydra. He is going to be able to clear out waves very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And seeing that Plucking Penguin did get basically demolished as he was, he might have to consider building some durability into his kit. He's working towards that Ghost Blade, as it were.
Yeah, Higgs Drinker makes a lot of sense against somebody like Cavalry's Cannon here, who's even now starting to shred through Giscard. Of course, he does have the benefit of having most of his team with him. There's a Bard ulti going to be pausing this fight for a little bit, but Giscard is still giving up. He's still forfeit.
So he is not quite durable enough to take out 4 people by himself, even with a little assistance from Handy's Bard.
They do have the drop on the bottom side of the map here, though, where they're shoving in a secondary turret. We'll see whether or not they're able to catch up to this momentum in time, and if Supernova can make up for this.
Somehow we missed it, but Hopeful got picked there.
There's the flash in from Combs. He's going to be knocking up Plucking Penguin. There's a trade 1-for-1 now as Cavalry goes down, actually, in the middle of his ult to Puree. Yeniar dropping dangerously low to that death ray, and he will be falling. Shadow Vision's doing some consistent DPS in this fight. There's the Q from Hani. There's the flash in, actually, from Pure. Really wanting to finish off this fight, but doesn't quite get what he was looking for. He just about escapes with his life.
So that was a relatively even fight, but very slight advantage going to NCSU. They picked up Yenny and Cavalry.
A little bit of damage on that secondary turret as well, actually. Let's see. Yeah, the secondary turret has nearly fallen, so I'd say that NCSU came out very slightly ahead there. And we're seeing a similar pattern to last game, you know, like the 20-minute mark or so, the 18, 19, 20-minute mark, the game is tenuously even. A mistake, a critical mistake by either team could break it open for the other one here.
Absolutely.
And last time around it was the critical mistake from NCSU, but that doesn't mean that it can't be the critical mistake from Supernova this one.
And Philly could be in trouble.
And he doesn't have any flash or anything else to get himself out of this pickle. This Plucking Penguin finishes off the kill with a huge damage, collateral damage.
Absolutely. He does have that Ghost Blade finish, so that is going to be extending out his burst just quite a bit. Hopeful.
He turns around with the Nethergrass. Plucking Penguin will go down. Hopeful finishing off that kill. Meanwhile, Giscard coming in through his Bard's portal gets the kill back. It's a 1-for-1 trade so far, discounting the karma. Yenny are going to be popping the heal, topping some slows, but he'll fall nonetheless, as now Hani is coming in from the side to stun up Combs and finish off this fight. That's Shadow Visions with the final blow.
And it's going to be Supernova losing that fight this time around. 3-for-0. Or 3-for-1, I should say. Plucking Penguin did get evaporated by Hopeful there.
Cavalry is in the top side, getting some good damage down, but it looks like a teleport will dissuade him from pushing any further as Giscard shows up.
I'm incredibly surprised to see that NCSU is not taking this dragon. It is open right now.
That is true. It looks like they want instead to go for the secondary turret in the mid lane. It was rather low, and you know it's still on the table.
If they're fast,
it.
They're going for it.
Oh, they may set up an ambush. Sitting on a pin cord, Philly gets stunned against the wall, and once again, Karma is deleted. Checking the wrong area of the jungle, and right before the hawk shot would have revealed them as well.
That's so unfortunate. It's just like a couple seconds late. If it had been there just a little sooner.
And a blue trinket was placed in the bush.
And Penguin was on the dragon the whole time.
If Philly had been just slightly more patient, he would not have fallen. But he was trying to prevent a dragon from going down. He was trying to prevent the very thing that happened. In the end, his potential overzealousness does give up a kill, and the dragon falls as well. And Supernova's playing on the back foot here. But unlike NCSU last game at this point, Supernova is most certainly not down for the count.
Absolutely. It's nice to see that NCSU not quite behind here. They're definitely in the lead now. Mm-hmm. And they're in a much better position than they were last game, that's for sure. Despite actually being taken off several of their comfort picks, they're doing quite well.
I mean, Giscard is back onto the kind of pick that he seems to like to play as well. And Shadow Visions has been performing...
Definitely a much more similar style than, say, a Rumble.
Yeah. I'm thinking the AP carry top lane might not be quite as much of a comfort zone for him as these sort of bruiser tank top laners are.
Cavalry just wanting to go in here.
Yeah, he's got that Slicing Maelstrom down. He does not have a Zonies available, however, so he will be bursted back. That's a 1-for-1 trade so far. Combs playing the front line for his team. A flash in, actually, from Yeniar, going crazy aggressive here in the Ashe, but it looks like it's going to pay off as the Bartle comes down a little bit too late. Does allow Giscard to position himself right next to Yeniar. He will burst him out of the fight. We'll see if Hani and Giscard can turn this so far pretty darn horrific fight into a miracle, or if they're just going to pick off the Ashe and walk. They're just going to pick off the Ashe and walk out.
So basically a 3-for-2. Slight advantage going to Supernova, but nice little play by Giscard to basically even out a little bit more.
Does Combs go down as well?
Oh,
he's got the tower aggro. Giscard is beating on him, and he will fall.
Very well played.
Not respecting this Trundle.
Nice play by Giscard and Hanny there to basically say, you're going to pay for that.
I'm really liking seeing Giscard back on something that he's a lot more familiar with, because he's had such a huge impact in so many of these fights, and I can't say the same of his performance on the Rumble.
Rumble
The
was definitely a little
equalizers
more
were good,
unnoticeable.
but, I mean, Rumble really feels like it should be the more impactful, like, team fighting champ. You know, Trundle, he's okay in a team fight, but he doesn't have any equalizers in his kit or anything like that.
Yeah.
And yet, it just seems to be the familiarity that Giscard has with this kind of playstyle that's allowing him to flex his lead much more.
Absolutely. He has finished the Spirit Visage. He is going to be even more durable now. Working towards a frozen... It's not a frozen mallet. Frozen heart.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense against a Ashe.
Who,
Slowing her attack speed is rather valuable.
absolutely. Yep.
And Ashe really is going to be the threat moving into the next 10-15 minutes of the game for any tank. The AD carry is the one who's going to be melting you, so that's the point where you want to start building things like Frozen Mallet, Rando, and Zoman. If you're against an AP laner like a Kennen and you couldn't have the luxury of building them first item.
Actually, we are both wrong on that. Giscard is not building
Iceborne?
Frozen Heart. He's building Iceborne.
Yeah.
So it's definitely still an item that works for him.
Yeah, just generally some sort of armor as Yeniar scales up into his tank killing status as he gets closer and closer to the third item, which will likely be an Infinity Edge. Then after that, probably a Lord Dominik's.
He's definitely going to be doing quite a bit of damage. We'll have to see if Supernova decides to respect the Trundle a bit more. Pyre could be in trouble here.
Yeah, the arrow immediately onto Sivir, who, of course, does have the spell shield to block that out. Hopeful now going to be caught out by a Bard. Ulti, he turns around to burst as best he can before he goes down. Hani nearly killed as Puree goes below half health, but Yeniar will fall as well, and that's 2 carries out of the picture. Cavalry coming in to try and clean up this fight, but he still has no Zonias, and he still will be, at the very best, trading 1 for 1. Philly will be chased down at the end of the fight as Plucking Penguin dashes in with some buckshot to finish off the kill.
Okay. We're seeing pretty much a complete reversal here now.
I'm really surprised at the choice to continue going anywhere near that fight after the Ashe ulti had been nullified.
Absolutely. There's a nice attempt to try and pick Puree there, but Puree, of course, having beautiful reflexes on
I mean,
basically...
that's something you got to expect at this level of play, though. The Sivir is going to spell shield the Ashe arrow.
Absolutely.
If it's just like a raw Ashe arrow with no sort of follow-up or any sort of preamble, you know, it's just the Ashe arrow flying towards the Sivir is going to be spell shielded. These players are good enough to do that.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Ashe arrows, though, there's one on the Giscard. Not going to hold him up for any meaningful length of time, however, as it was almost point blank.
That on top of the Merc treads.
Oh, yeah.
Huh? Seeing Supernova is gathering up for something. They could go for a Baron here, possibly.
A Baron skirmish was what opened up the game for them last time around, so maybe they're wanting to try it again, and it looks like that's the case.
There might be a good opportunity for them, but it is still 5v5.
Nicely placed Bardol, holding up 4 members. Hopeful is left all alone off to the side. Plucking's going to be dashing on in, but Hopeful still gets the kill back in the mono-y-mono. Now Cavalry, again, without the zonies to keep himself alive, is going to get bursted down in the middle of this fight. Combs will follow shortly thereafter as Hani finishes off that kill. Philly now getting chased down with his team falling around him and no one to keep him safe and no one to keep safe. Baron attempt going drastically awry as Hani continues the chase into Hopeful. One more auto and Hani's on a killing spree. Well deserved. This guy has had such a brilliant performance on Bard this game.
So that was very well played. His ultimate basically locking up 4 members of Supernova, giving them just enough time to get in there. Though Plucking Penguin was the only victim on the side of NCSU.
It's terrifying for Hopeful to realize after the Bard ulti connects that he's essentially 1v5 for like a few seconds there. And that must be like the worst feeling. Oh, my whole team is a bunch of beautiful statuary. That's not going to help me at all. He still did manage to trade 1 for 1 with Plucking Penguin though, so kudos to him there.
Absolutely. There's definitely the opportunity for Supernova to make a comeback here, but it's basically the same point that NCSU was in the last game.
Mm-hmm. A bit less drastic, I suppose, as the Baron is still contestable. And it looks like, actually, speaking of global objectives, Yeniar alongside Cones is going to be able to take down the Dragon in the meantime while they're distracted topside. Now realizing that was going on, though, they're going to try their best to force a fight. But Sivir and Bard is not quite enough. Actually, they didn't pop on the Hunt. I'm surprised they didn't. They seemed... I think it was the right call to really push hard for a fight there, given that both Rek'Sai and Ashe were out of the picture for another few seconds.
And while the Super Minions beat on the Supernova's base, they are going to go for the Baron here.
Oh, the secure actually from Puree with a crit auto attack. Cavalry now coming in for some great burst damage, but he's going to be shut down, trading 1 for 1 as he always has in these team fights. Pluck and Penguin will fall in the back of the pit there. Yeti are getting chased down and slaughtered. As Hopeful now realizing perhaps this isn't the best fight to collapse in on, is going to flash out of the back of the Baron pit to keep himself alive. And in the end, that is still very much in favor of NCSU as they trade evenly in kills and get themselves a Baron, all the while getting a Nexus turret from those Super Minions rushing in.
Very well played, keeping in mind where the Super Minions were. He's forcing the trade, basically. And they're going to get another inhibitor.
I think he got stunned against his own minion there? The Bard ults, that was a secondary proc of the Bard, not Bard ult, pardon me, the Cosmic Binding. The secondary proc of Cosmic Binding hit the Malzahar. The first proc must have hit a minion and killed it. And so it was the second half of the spell that had landed on the house.
That makes sense. Yeah. And it looks like the Nexus turret isn't quite going to go down, but it is extremely low.
And we may very well be going to a game 3 tonight.
And
just Reverie as ever.
I suppose I should take this opportunity to mention that Giskard we were wrong. I was wrong once again. It was not Iceborne Gauntlet. He built Trinity Forces and is now working towards Frozen Heart.
I think he might have been going for Iceborne Gauntlet, but the amount of snowballing they're doing prompted him to go into that Trinity Force.
Absolutely. He was probably at the point where like, I have enough gold for Trinity Force. Let's just buy that.
He might have just clicked on the Sheen to finish out his build path and just see all his options and realized, oh, I can buy a Trinity Force. Yes.
It's definitely not the most unusual item in Trouble. It really fits his kit given his cooldowns.
It's just usually you can't afford to lose the tankiness to be able to purchase it, but at this point, Giskard is so far ahead of the opposition that just due to the levels, I mean, he's got 4 levels up over some of the opposing team players. Cavalry dashing into the back lines, gets bursted down almost instantly, and his ult doesn't really accomplish too much. Now Coons is going to be melted as he attempts to finish off what his top laner started. But speaking of top laners, Giskard is wreaking havoc with
Giskard is a juggernaut.
This guy cannot be stopped.
That turret was doing nothing to him.
Hopeful's going to turn around, get a kill, possibly into Puck and Penguin here. No, Hani's going to keep him alive with the benefit of a healing shrine, and the Nexus will implode upon itself as a clean ace comes through for NCSU. We're into game 3.
NCSU taking that game, completely reversing how the first game went. Both teams very even in the start, but once the mid-game happens, we're seeing both teams kind of falter depending on which game you look at.
Yeah, and I mean, this tells us that these teams are rather evenly matched. It's just a matter of who makes that big misstep first. And this game wasn't quite as cut and dried, however, as the one that we saw Supernova win in. Supernova still had a few opportunities to pull back, and it looked a little more messy from the side of NCSU. You can see that even just in the game timer. This one went for 32 minutes, and I think the last one went for something around 26 or 27. So Supernova seemed to be much more capable of driving once they're in the driver's seat, but NCSU are no slouches.
Absolutely. There's definitely plenty of opportunities for them to get in there and show what they are made of.
Well, one opportunity left. One more game tonight.
Yeah, in that regard, yes, there's only one more game tonight. This is a best of 3. Both teams have won one time. Supernova taking the first game and NCSU taking the second game. And we are now getting back into the lobby. We're going to take a small, very short break while we wait for everybody to fill back up, and we will be back once we're in Champion Select. And here we are, the last and final match of the evening between Supernova and NCSU Prime.
A hacker in bed. They're not letting Pluck and Penguin get back on that horse, so to speak.
Absolutely.
He had a brilliant performance in that a few games ago. I don't want to see it repeated. Cavalry is going to be losing his Vladimir, and it seems like we have devolved into target bans.
There's another target ban on Pluck and Penguin, which makes me wonder if we're going to see a Rek'Sai ban or a Rek'Sai first pick to force Pluck and Penguin onto a fourth champion.
Rek'Sai's been in the first round of picks every single game so far of the season, of the series, I should say. As Varus is taken out of the picture for Hopeful. Let's see what the final ban is here on the side of Supernova, who are back on the blue side with NCSU Prime on the red.
This is going to be a Victor ban. They're definitely impressed with Shadow Vision's performance on Victor, so they're changing it up away from the Aurelion Soul.
I was impressed as well. Shadow Visions did a great job on that, but this does allow Shen through, and it will be instantly taken, as Cavalry does not want to give that over to Giscard.
Poor Giscard. I want to play Shen. And they're saying no.
Trundle's actually not too terribly bad into Shen, though, and we've already seen Trundle is something that Giscard is perfectly proficient at. So
absolutely, he had a very good game last game.
Yeah, they're denying the sort of MO, it seems, of NCSU Prime, though, by taking the Shen of that they always want to be making coordinated plays across the map, and Shen certainly does lend himself to that kind of play style.
Absolutely. And we're seeing Sivert being hovered. Puri had a decent game last game with it. It's not a terrible first pick.
Yeah, Siver's great to steal away, especially when your opposing team allows you to pick both Sivert and Karma in your first rotation because they put such a priority on something like Shen. It's the weakness of doing that. Oh, but they're actually going to be leaving the Karma up still. Karma's been picked literally every game so far tonight. So
absolutely. And instead, they're going to put Giscard onto Gnar. Character I don't think I've seen him. Maybe I have seen him play it. I don't know. I'd have to go back and watch another broadcast where he played.
It is a bruiser as opposed to a carry top, so I like that already. Giscard has shown a penchant for that kind of play style, and Gnar does rather well into a Shen, so I like the pick overall. I feel like it could have waited a little bit, though, but maybe they just don't honestly have as much importance placed onto the Sivert Karma combo as I think they should.
Well, maybe they feel comfortable putting Hanny back onto the Bard if the Karma gets stolen away, which is not looking like it's going to be the case.
Well, I mean, they could still take Karma as a mid lane pick. I haven't really seen Hopeful's Karma at any point, I don't believe, but Hopeful is really reliable, and he's got quite a deep champ pool in the mid lane, so I wouldn't be surprised if Karma is something that he can pull out if necessary.
We still have a number of picks that we need to see here out of the side of NCSU Prime. And
Rek'Sai is still on the table as well, and that didn't get through in the first round of picks or bans either. Ooh, a Lux would be really cool to see.
We did see a Lux ban, didn't we, earlier?
We did in the first game that we saw Shadow Visions. I don't know how advisable of a pick it is. Maybe Shadow Visions is just really comfortable on it. We also saw a Rengar ban against Pluck and Penguin a few games ago, so a lot of maybe comfort picks being hovered here, but I would love to see Hani back in the Bard. I think I had a huge impact on that. Won't be quite as good a pairing alongside a... Actually, it was alongside Sivir before, wasn't it?
It was.
Yeah, Puri was on the Sivir, so it'll be the same bottom lane duo that they got last time, and they did very well with that.
Absolutely.
It's Rek'Sai locked in, yeah.
So Pluck and Penguin going to get that Rek'Sai. He was not able to get Rek'Sai before.
I'm honestly just surprised that Rek'Sai made it this far.
I am surprised, too. I'm actually really shocked that they didn't, take that from Pluck and Penguin before, but apparently Combs is going to be more comfortable on that Gragas.
I think the most surprising thing about this draft phase so far for me is the early pickup of the Gnar, but I guess they just didn't want to show their hand for their bottom lane that early. They didn't want to pick both their AD carry and support in the first round of picks, but now they're holding out on their mid lane here. Hopeful going to be locking in the Talia. I think that's as much to take it away from Shadow Visions as it is to play it himself, as Shadow Visions Does have quite a pedigree with that champ. And, ooh. Okay, I don't think the cannon's going to be locked in.
I
I
don't think
really
it's
don't.
gonna. I don't think it is.
Shadow Visions would be playing into the mid lane if it gets locked in.
Unless maybe it's a mid lane Gnar. What do we know?
I know that that's not going to happen.
I agree.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to be the stick in the mud, but
It's very, very, very unlikely. I agree. It's
that's
like
one boomerang that is never coming back.
a point to 0.000000000.
No, you could save a lot of time by just saying 0. Just once.
I finished already.
Because it ain't going to happen.
He's
But
still.
Kennen could be locked in. It could be a mid lane Kennen. That's somewhat reasonable.
It's very. It's unusual as well, but it definitely has a higher chance than mid lane Gnar, and he's hovering. It is locked in. It's gonna be a Lux.
Yeah, Lux for Shadow Visions. The rough thing about the cannon pickup would have been the range for them, because then they wouldn't have anybody who has any sort of like really decent long range. They can only engage at a sort of mid-range level with Gnar and, pardon me, Kennen. Lux does solve that problem a bit. She has a lot of long range catch, long range damage. Her statistics, though, in terms of competitive play, are a little bit underwhelming. Lux actually in the professional level of play across the NA, EU, LCS, even the Korean and Chinese scene, because she gets picked so infrequently, you have to kind of expand your pool of statistics. She still has only won, I believe, 2 games total out of like a good dozen or so picked. So really, really low win rate for high level plays because she's got some pretty exploitable weaknesses.
Absolutely. The lack of mobility is my biggest concern for her. She only has flash for escape, and possibly using this snare to try and stop someone from ganking her.
That's
But
true.
if she
What?
gets caught in a Talia combo and she doesn't have flash or heal up, she's very likely going to just die on the spot.
Yeah, and I mean we see some less mobile champions coming back into the meta, things like the Malzahar that we just saw last game. But what Malzahar has that Lux doesn't is the ability to push a wave without expending too much of his mana pool early on, or rotations of cooldowns that aren't too terribly long. These are things that Lux kind of doesn't have. Her cooldowns are really, really long in the early game. They, of course, get almost infinitesimally small later on, particularly her ult, which goes down to below 30 seconds. But she has this exploitable window in the early game and somewhat even in the early mid game where she's very easy to work around as a laner, and Hopeful is very proficient. I haven't particularly seen his Talia play specifically, but just as a laner, knowing the basics of mid lane and trading and all that sort of thing, I imagine Hopeful is going to be able to play around the Lux.
He's actually taking the cleanse so that if he gets snared, he can avoid the combo.
Mm-hmm.
And I can imagine that Combs is going to be spending quite a bit of time putting pressure onto Shadow Visions. Because once they pop that flash and that heal, he's going to be extremely vulnerable to any number of ganks. And other than that, that's basically the only matchup that I'm concerned about. I think basically the top lane is going to be a top lane. It's not going to be too exciting. Gisker's going to be Gisker's going to be annoying to Cavalry, but Cavalry's going to be like, I'm just going to farm.
Yeah, I think you're right. I unfortunately have to agree with you. I wish I didn't. But yeah, Shen does not really lend himself to 2 terribly exciting lanes. I've seen a few really, really proficient Sen players play very aggressively on the champ, though. I'm just surprised that there was such an emphasis placed on getting it early, and also that Cavalry was willing to dip into this pool of really tanky, low damage champs for the top lane, because this guy loves to play the hyper carries, the Gangplanks, and the Vladimirs, and the Kennons of the world.
It's definitely a little more unusual from the usual champion pool we've seen out of him before. So it's going to be interesting to see how he plays a different style. Maybe he's going to play super aggressive, but I don't see how that could work against a Gnar, because Gnar's just going to poke him down and run away and be annoying. So,
But we do have just a little bit of the delay to count down through, I think, before we can get into the match here.
so we're going to take this opportunity to take a very tiny, 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 tiny break. So we will see you guys in the game. And here we are, the last match of the evening, as we mentioned earlier. Supernova on the blue side and NCSU Prime on the red side. And they're
In
off.
this game, I anticipate a laning phase where we see a tooth and nail battle fought between the two teams, only to break one way or the other as we break past the 25-30 minute mark. That is, of course, if it follows the form of the last two matches. That is the best kind of League of Legends.
Absolutely. And I can think we're going to see most of our action this time around, possibly in the mid lane, just given what we were talking about earlier. But, of course, it is completely possible that all the action stays focused in that bottom lane, as we've seen in the previous two games.
Yeah, these teams do seem to have a penchant for fighting on the bottom side of the map. They like themselves the Southlands. Puree and Hani are back again on what seemed to be one of their more aggressive duo lane setup, or mainly just Hani being very aggressive on that Bard and landing quite a few well-placed cosmic bindings, as well as now going with an Ignite rather than an Exhaust. This is a different choice than the last time we saw. And answering the questions in the chat, it is 1-1 currently, so we're into the final match, and it really could be anybody's series.
Absolutely. So Henny, he was definitely aggressive on Karma, but definitely felt like he was doing more on Bard than he was doing on the Karma. And with the Ignite, he's definitely looking to possibly just pick up kills here.
Yeah. Again, both duo laners are going to be starting off at a jungle camp, pretty standard fare at this point. As I do have a close eye on this mid lane. Talia versus Lux is not a matchup I anticipated seeing for quite a while.
Absolutely. So we'll have to see how Shadow Visions plays into the Talia, because it is a rather unusual matchup. Talia probably has the stronger wave clear in the early game.
Oh yeah.
If
only because Shadow Visions is so gated by mana costs and cooldowns. It's a very old style of champion Lux, and doesn't really play nice with a lot of the newer laners.
So there's probably a little bit... What's the word I'm looking for here? Hasn't evolved with the times, hasn't been updated.
The main weakness of Lux is that while her abilities are supremely powerful, they're very much on a premium, each one of them. Ooh, Yenny are not quite getting hit by that. As Hani bites off perhaps more than he could chew, playing rather aggressive there. And so, because each ability is so very important in the course of a trade for Shadow Visions, missing a single one of them can screw up everything. Lux is very much a combo-based champ.
Absolutely. We see Pluck and Penguin actually going for a little invade here. But it is just to place a ward, then he's going to go for the gank in the mid lane.
Yeah, place the ward and get good positioning for this, but the light binding rather does not quite land, and Seismic Shove is going to be tossing Pluck and Penguin back into a very rough spot. But the teleport wasn't completed. Giscard managed to interrupt the teleport from Cavalry.
Oh, wow.
Oh, man. So that's going to be Pluck and Penguin getting out just by the skin of his teeth.
That just means that that has to mean that Giscard was just in Meganar farm and just happened to be in position to stop the teleport.
I think he was just at the end of Meganar, too, because when we swapped up to top lane, his rage bar was just about empty, so...
That's,
very fortuitous timing for Giscard, and even more so for Pluck and Penguin, who was the one who benefited from it.
Absolutely. Pluck and Penguin probably thanking his lucky stars that he did not get picked up there.
It did not have to burn Flash either. I mean, he still might have gotten out of that situation with a Flash to get away from Cavalry once he teleported in, but that wallop from Giscard saves a valuable cooldown on Pluck and Penguin.
Absolutely. Henny getting engaged on a little bit here. There's a gank coming from Combs.
Yeah, Henny just about dodges away from the Howling Gale. Meanwhile, there's a teleport down to the bottom side of the map, and this cannot be answered by the Shen. It was burned towards the mid lane. Giscard going to be teleporting in, tossing out a boomerang. Slowing up Yennear a little bit, but that won't be enough to keep the fight rolling. It looks like both teleport attempts from the top laners will fizzle out in their own ways.
Absolutely. A little bit of rushed teleport from Giscard there, honestly. But maybe it was just there to basically say, hey, leave my laners alone. Because we did see Combs and Yenny and Philly all back off once the teleport did occur, so that does make sense now.
Yeah, it certainly accomplished the job of dissuading them from continuing the chase. Saved Honey's life, if nothing else. And also saved his flash. We have Giscard, the saver of flashes, and now Hani may very well need it, as Pure is going to get exhausted here with Combs coming back to the bottom side for another attempt. Plucking Penguin going to be flashing forward, looking for the knock up of Combs, but Combs flashes away himself. Now the heal from Yeniar keeps himself a little bit longer. The flash in for the ignite from Hani nearly brings him down, but nearly is not quite enough, simply by definition. Yeniar will make it out of there. Now Giscard is getting engaged on by Cavalry, who's got a minion wave with a cannon in it to back him up, and Giscard, recognizing the disadvantage he's at, is going to try his best to rush on out of there. And it looks like he'll get out, suffering a bit of a botch trade.
We are seeing, once again, a lot of focus in that bottom lane. So the formula of this series has not changed up at all currently.
No, which means that if things go to formula, this game really could go one way or the other still. We are only just about approaching the 6-minute mark, and both of these teams seem rather well evenly matched.
Absolutely. We're actually seeing Giscard picking up I have forgotten the name of that item now because I don't...
The Cult.
That's it, the Cult.
Which is a bit of a strange choice. You don't often see solo laners go for that one, as they don't have the benefit of a support to provide more damage in the lane and to provide more safety in the lane, and so
He probably
Cole
just
is a little bit more of a liability in the solo lane.
Absolutely. He probably just feels that he is safe enough that he can pick it up, but if he gets Shadow Dashed and Combs or Hopeful show up, he could be in trouble if he's not in Meganar.
It just means that he likely won't be picking too many fights, as you can see, his auto attacks barely even dent Cavalry at this point. But he's investing for that mid-game spike, which makes a lot of sense given the way that these two teams have played out against one another over the last 2 games. That's when it's mattered most.
Absolutely. Seeing Yeti and Philly pushing the wave up, but can't imagine that Puree is going to have too much trouble clearing a wave out as a Sivir.
Probably not. It is one of her few powers in the laning phase. She kills minions quite well. She killed a minion good. That's my official analysis right there.
I can't disagree.
Well, you could, but you'd be wrong. As Giscard continues to farm it up with this call, and that means that the top lane, which we anticipated as being something of a quiet and dull place, is...
A quiet and a dull place.
Quiet and dull. Which is strange, considering it's inhabited by a ninja and a monstrous luchador. You know, not really what you'd anticipate out of that. But that's just how the cookie crumbles.
Just imagine a tiny little Gnar doing wrestling moves on a ninja.
Not always so tiny, though. Blue buff donated now over to Hopeful, as both mid laners hit that level 7 breakpoint, passing the level 6 one. And I don't think it'd be remiss to assume that we'll soon be seeing Hopeful or Shadow Visions, or both, down on the bottom side of the map. Maybe we'll wait for teleport cooldowns, as Cavalry gets his back and Giscard has his almost available.
Huh? Saying that Cavalry's actually having a really good game here. He is keeping up in actually he's ahead in CS by a pretty significant margin.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Shen does a pretty darn good job of holding off the lane. There's a flash.
We just saw a very brief flash in the mid lane as the directed camera.
You know, we don't want to miss any of this Shen v Gnar action.
Absolutely. Directed camera is like, you have to see this. This is so exciting.
Just look at this. He's going to auto-attack him again. Like that annoying friend who kept trying to show you YouTube videos in high school. Oh, no, Hopeful. Almost.
So very close to canceling the back there.
Didn't quite get it. Threaded volley didn't have the range that it needed to. And the final one did connect, but it was in that tiny little window of invulnerability as you're finishing your base, which they actually even closed that window even further recently. So it's honestly impressive that it managed to land there.
Absolutely. We're seeing Supernova going for the first dragon.
And they're going to be pretty safe as Talia cuts off any sort of advance from Pure and Hani. Fucking Penguin's going to come in, but there's another cutoff from Talia. However, we do have a Tempered Fate to stall out the Baron attempt. Dragon attempt, I should say. There's the first blood going over the rocks as Shadow Vision comes in to pick himself up a kill. The Ocean Drake is taken, though, so I'd say this trade is pretty good for NCSU, or Supernova, if they can just make their way out of here, but they may not be able to. Yeniar falls as a double binding from Shadow Visions. What does it mean? Well, it means a kill for Pure. Nicely done by NCSU.
Supernova took the dragon, but NCSU taking 3 kills and the red buff.
One of which being the first blood, of course. going over to Lux. Going to help out quite a bit, as Hopeful was doing a pretty darn good job of bullying Shadow Visions around in the lane. Garnered for himself a small CS lead, but those 2 assists as well as the 400 gold from the first blood is going to go a long way towards rectifying that.
Cavello engaging on a plucking penguin there, but Rek'Sai being as slippery as he is not going to amount to too much.
Rek'Sai is a voluptuous lady monster. You get that gender correct.
I'm sorry, I always forget. It's just a very terrifying lady monster.
How could you forget? Isn't she so ladylike?
I am not going to answer that question.
It's probably for the best. Philly zones Puree back from a minion wave that was looking mighty juicy with a cannon in the middle.
That was a rather exciting engagement at the dragon.
It's okay. We'll have our dose of top lane action soon to wear off that excitement. Here we are, Argus guard on the top side. He's killing minions.
He's gonna... How exciting! He's killing minions and auto-attacking.
The numbers on his cull are going down.
And he's gonna transform and continue using abilities and auto-attacking minions.
He's just maneuvering numbers right now. He's an accountant. He's accountant Nar. He's upping his CS account and lowering his cull account.
Interest banking with Nar.
I mean, we are into the 3rd game of the series. This is the most important one, and neither side really wants to take too much of a risk. Any play that's going to be made is going to be highly calculated and have a very high chance of being easy to fall back from. You know, you don't want to do anything where you could find yourself caught out high and dry if it goes wrong.
Absolutely. Nar, Gisker doing Nar things. Oh, might see a gank here, though.
Yeah, some more focus on the bottom side of the map as Plucking Penguin roams his way down there. However, towards the top side, we do have Combs coming in, maybe for a gank. Body Slam does not find its mark, as Hani eats a delicious cupcake. Nice little healthy snack for our Celestial Wanderer.
Even Celestial Wanderers and gods love cupcakes.
I really don't even understand what he's walking on, and I guess he's like a double pirate. He's got multiple peg legs. Both junglers now approaching towards the mid lane, as these junglers have been fairly gank heavy this game, but, well, gank attempt heavy, I should say. Not really working out too often. These laners are playing very carefully.
No one wants to be the one that causes the game to go one way or the other here.
Well, some action on the bottom side and in the mid lane. Hopeful gonna get bursted down by that Finale's Funkelin. Fucking Penguin gets the kill. Final spark.
Giskard being extremely annoying with this.
That was a nice boomerang on the NER.
Absolutely. Seeing NCSU taking advantage in all 3 lanes here, forcing several backs and kills. Well, 1 kill.
Yeah. I mean, Shadow Visions is making a great argument for himself on this Lux
wow, that almost hit him. Cavalry barely not getting hit by...
Pure, I know you wanted the mana back from your spell shield, but that was 2 tower hits. Whatever, he doesn't have any laning opponents right now. He's just here to get the local gold off the turret. 650 gold in his pocket, because Hani actually stepped far enough away to allow only Pure to get it.
What a good guy. What a good bard.
It's multiple kills worth of gold. Turrets are really valuable now. It's a little... even though it is technically announced, it goes a little bit unannounced how much money exactly anybody is getting from a turret kill. And it is super impactful who you give that money to, how you decide to spread it around, and also who gets the first turret now, because there is that first turret, first blood sort of gold. So I think that's the most amount of gold that any one player can possibly get from a turret kill right there.
Hopeful once again being in a possibly terrible position.
Yeah, I'd say that's more than just possibly. That's almost certainly terrible, as Shadow Vision lands the light binding and follows it up. Some more damage on the cavalry here. I mean, I was talking about the high impact but also high risk factors for Lux's kit. The high risk, high reward way that she has everything as a skill shot, where they're relatively long cooldown, relatively high mana cost. But if you just hit them, then it's not a problem. You know, if you just hit them every time, as Shadow Visions has shown himself pretty much capable of.
Shadow Visions is definitely having a really good game here. He's 2-0-3, has Merlin Icon, has the Sword Shoes.
Yeah, and building into that cool introduction to mana regen, just with itemization, you can cover over those weaknesses, and then Lux is great. It's just before the itemization comes through, she's a bit of a problem child. But Shadow Visions is maneuvering his way through the Lux early game pretty darn magnificently, honestly.
Absolutely. I'm actually rather surprised that Combs didn't put more pressure onto that mid lane just to kind of basically force Shadow Visions into a terrible spot.
And
But
he was there a good few times. He tried, but now Hopeful is almost getting instantly bursted. Flash over the wall. Shadow Visions gets the kill. And that was through a shield there from Philly.
yeah, I could safely say that Shadow Visions is doing really good now. That was a nice little catch that he had there, the long range combo.
I mean, Philly was just there and could only sit by and watch. Now Cavalry is going to get found up. Shadow Visions again belting out even more consistent damage during this fight. Shen down to a few hundred hit points, but he does get back to the safety of his turret as Giscard teleports in, only to be exhausted and body slammed. But it looks like they'll get the momentum in the mid lane. And push that momentum into some good damage on the turret, if not a kill. Oh, wow, Yeniar gets junked again.
Definitely not having the easiest time dealing with double boomerangs.
Been on point here from Pure. Saw last game that he certainly knows how to handle his Sivir, and that stayed consistent. Now they've got some really good pressure here in the mid lane, and this is one of the strengths of their composition. They've got a lot of wave clear between Sivir and Lux. They can keep these shoves going. Of course, Lux isn't even here right now, so it's basically just the Sivir doing this.
Absolutely. They're definitely going to need to find a way to deal with that level of wave clear.
And Dragon is live once again. It is an Ocean Drake by the looks of it. That's going to get started off. Fucking Penguin can do best to secure this one as Combs comes around the corner, only to get stunned by Hani, who's playing the frontline bard here. The Tempered Fate comes down, but doesn't quite catch on to anybody. As Lucent Singularity didn't find its mark either.
Very good disengage by
Vision
Supernova, but
drops the final spark in a strange location and is probably praying he had it right now. Combs body slamming in though takes a big old chunk of damage from this Lux, who's just belting it out now. Fucking Penguin, oh, a beautiful snare into another snare. That synergy was insane between Hani and his mid laner. Shadow Visions picking up himself a kill off the back of it.
we also say
Into the light binding. Oh, Flux Penguin. He's going aggressive here onto Cavalry through the magical journey. Now Hani's going to follow it up with a speed buff for his jungler. Cavalry going to block a few auto attacks here, but it seems like that will not be enough as the Unburrow finishes the job that Penguin started.
and this game not quite following the same point. We're seeing that Supernova not quite able to keep up here.
Yeah, NCSU is sort of putting pedal to the metal here. And Supernova has not been able to pump the brakes to stop them.
They're not expecting the surprise Lux pick to do so well.
Oh yeah, this Lux has surprised everybody, myself very much included. Shadow Visions has been on point with this Lux game. The weaknesses have definitely been there, and we've seen attempted exploitation of them by Combs and by Hopeful, but Shadow Visions has played around the weaknesses of his champions so well that he's been able to accentuate the strengths, and it seems almost strange now that Lux isn't in the meta, and that's when you know you've got a really solid player in your hands.
Absolutely. He's working towards that Loon Deco, so he's only going to get more bursty.
Oh yeah.
And we're seeing that there are several completed items on the side of NCSU where some of the characters for Supernova haven't finished one, other than basically Hopeful has Murloc unfinished, and obviously Combs has the finished jungle item, but that's it.
Shadow Visions and Plucking Penguin are so strong right now that they can just pick these fights whenever they want. Combs has to flash over wall, but there's the Tempered Fate. It actually even catches Cavalry. Here comes the Weaver's Wall, but it'll only split them up, honestly, kind of pointlessly, as Plucking Penguin finishes off the kill. There's the Rampage. The Weaver's Wall did do a decent job, actually, of splitting off the tanks, so they managed to burn down the Gragas, but Shadow Visions picks off a kill at the end of the fight to make it a 2-for-1 trade in the end.
So still, Supernova managed to pick up one kill there, so that's better than nothing.
That was at a numerical disadvantage as well. They weren't able to field Sivir into the fight because she was down on the bottom side shoving the wave. Oh, another beautiful stun from Hani, pardon me. That's an end. He's going to flash forward. He really wants to kill into Philly. The Ignite doesn't finish the job, though.
Philly barely getting away. That is very, very close. We see Rifthold returning to the void. So we see NCC not even considering. They don't need it.
NCSU, they're playing an almost perfect game now. This is in drastic change of form from the last two matches. Not to say that they didn't play very well in either of those matches. They did, for sure. But it was much more even. And we saw a mid-game spike in one direction or another. This time it's very much NCSU coming out definitively ahead in the early game as Philly gets caught off. Shadow Visions is dominating now.
Shadow Visions just throws out an ability, gets a pick, like, I think I'll evaporate him today.
Yeah, I mean, he's got essentially an evaporation beam now with that ulti.
It is a Death Star laser.
I'd be interested to see how much damage it does just by itself. I mean, you just saw Lucent Singularity take a few hundred hit points off of Cavalry.
And we're going to see NCSU disengage after taking the turret. Actually,
They do have,
they're kind of hanging around here.
they got a Gnar to deal with in the top lane, so even if they go for this fight, it's maybe rough for Supernova. There is the ulti onto Yeniar. Stand United comes through.
And
Countering it out.
definitely do not want Shadow Visions to burst anyone else down.
Shadow
But
Visions is sort of...
terrifying.
Yeah, he's like a game of hot potato played around these Lux cooldowns. You know, you just can't go near NCSU whenever there's a full Lux combo available to be tossed towards you. Because if even just one of those connects, somebody is dead, guaranteed.
And it's only going to get more and more terrifying until they find a way to fit some magic resist into their kits. And even then... And with that, we see that all of the Tier 1 and Tier 2 turrets have been destroyed for this side of Supernova, whereas we're seeing 0 turrets killed for the side of NCSU.
This is such a drastic change of pace. It seems like NCSU Prime they've cracked some sort of code and they've figured out a way to worm into Supernova's strategy here. They've pulled off the early game to a T, and now they just have to basically break an inhibitor down or get a good Baron attempt. Either one of those would almost certainly be enough for them to push through and end this game.
Absolutely. We're seeing a massive difference in gold here.
Massive is a very good way to phrase it. Dang, I hadn't glanced up at that over the last minute or two, but
Neither did I. I just looked up and had to note it.
That is...
At 22
is
minutes,
extreme.
that's pretty severe at 22 minutes.
Now we have a group almost as 5 here. Shadow Vision's lagging a little bit behind the rest of his team to clean out a minion wave in the mid lane. That's a bit of a tongue twister. And it looks like they're just looking for a pick. Hani or with Shadow Visions.
Oh,
Been
Combs.
waiting out the dragon timer, I suppose. That is another Ocean Drake available.
That's going to be the third Ocean Drake of the game.
I believe so, and that's going to give Lux so much staying power in these siege scenarios.
Absolutely. Ocean Drake isn't exactly the most popular Drake, but again, these kind of situations, it's definitely have its uses.
When you've got a team as adept at wave clearing and sieging as a Sivir Lux, then it certainly goes up in value.
Looks like they're
5-man
baiting
stack,
Baron.
little push. They're sitting on some pin cords, so they knew that Combs could not see them, and Puree is on a killing spree as a boomerang finalizes the Fat Man's demise. Now with the Gragas jungle out of the picture, Baron is very much in picture. Weaver's Wall comes through to separate them once again. Yeniar are going to be getting the benefit of a Shen shield. Fucking Penguin going to be knocked up in the air. They're focusing in with the intensity of a laser beam here into Shadow Visions, but they simply can't field enough resources to the back line to finish him off, as Yeniar is busily being chased away by Giscard. Nobody can deal with this Gnar now, who's gotten out of hand himself. As the hop forward and Hopeful against a red buffed Gnar with a frozen mallet has nowhere to run.
Absolutely. Cavalry had a really, really good shadow dash into, I believe,
there's the
4
surrender.
people, but that is going to be game. Congratulations to NCSU for taking this week, basically retaining their title.
Yeah, they're the reigning champs.
Absolutely. Supernova had a valiant attempt. They took first game pretty convincingly once the mid game started, but the second game did go in the favor of NCSU, and NCSU just ran away with it in the third game.
Yeah, it went in the favor of them much in the same way that a wrestling match between a squirrel and a bear would go in the favor of the bear. That was 18-1. They had 15,000 gold up. Something was so very wildly different about that game. I don't want to put it all down to Shadow Visions on the Lux, but
He was extremely
it was
impactful.
certainly part of it. He was a big factor.
He just was able to get so many picks just basically by himself. He land a binding, and just that was all she wrote for whoever he bound.
All right, well,
Hey,
speaking of all she wrote,
yeah, we're just going to take this quick opportunity to briefly mention our sponsors. We have, starting off, we have Battlefly, which is the service we use to help run our tournaments. It's basically if you played in the tournament, you already know about it. Um, very, very easy to use. And then we have Law History app. Law History app is a Android and iPhone application that you can basically install and use very similarly to, say, nc.opgg, or not nc, na.op.gg. Why did I say NC? That makes no sense. Probably because of NCSU. It's their fault.
North Carolina specific summoner
Yes.
lookup.
And last, but most certainly not least, we do have Vibi, which is a highlight platform. You can basically upload a video to their site and then use it to edit that video into a highlight reel without actually downloading any additional software. And with that, we are going to be go ahead and ending the stream. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope we can see you guys again next week. I hope we can see everybody signing up again so that we can have a nice big tournament just like this weekend. And with that, briefly note that NCSU Prime once again gets a free slot into the buy-in tournament at the end of the month. And with that, we'll be ending the stream. All right, guys.